Welcome in, everybody. This is Big Brain University, lesson number 6, Cyber Soul Warfare, the real threat of AI. It's April 20th. It's 4 o'clock, 24 minutes. We're on time. The universe is on time. We didn't even plan to start it at this time, but the time matters that we start usually. So a good omen to start out that everything kind of synced up to be right on the same numbers. So today, everybody, we're going to talk about, we have a unique opportunity here to do some things that we're not going to be able to find anywhere else. Basically, we are going to start out from the time we're born to every morning, how our lives have been preconditioned to be a foundational, we're set up for a foundational premises to accept AI into our lives. We're going to talk about how Americans could be being set up to be stuck here in America, unskilled, unable to leave. We're going to shift back into talking about how do different beliefs and belief systems around the world matter or do not matter in the way that the society or culture in that geographic area is conducting itself compared to others. We're going to be able to have a unique opportunity, as I mentioned, to get insight into such things through Kevin's experience with the NSA as a biostatistics and algorithms expert, having traveled the world and spent enough time in those areas. He's going to be able to reflect on his experience there, and we're going to be able to get it to the point where I'm going to kind of interview Kev a little bit at the end as well into some of the things, like some of the exercises that the NSA had them go through as part of their training. And we're going to be able to relate that by the end of this to how we can each train our own brain to understand how AI has trained our brain in the past, and also do other things like be able to fall asleep without taking any medications, in 2 minutes. How to train your brain to wake up at a certain time. Those are just a couple examples. So just to kind of summarize to everybody what we're going to be talking about, that in a nutshell is it. So, hope that everybody is doing well out there. Thanks for stopping in. I'm not going to go through a whole long spiel introduction or anything, because by this time you may or may not know who we are, but this is lesson 6, so we're not going to waste any time regurgitating. Hi, my name is, this is who I am. I grew up in a town not far from here. All right, so to start out, we're not going to dig super duper deep on every little detail where, AI was involved in the car ride on my way to birth, or, we're going to start with, from the moment you're born, what is the most major thing that starts conditioning you without you realizing it as a young child. Now, Kev, you know the answer to this because we've already had this conversation, but without playing any 20 questions here.
Well, I will answer that, but before I do, and for any of the new people that had stumbled across this, I will say in a disclaimer throughout the cast, just to get this out of the way, I do not speak for the Department of Defense, nor do I speak for any government agencies. I only speak for myself. Nothing I say on these podcasts, verbal and or written, and comments, the views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the speaker's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the government. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. So don't be expected to be like, oh, he said the word NSA. Well, we're going to get some classified info on him. Well, this guy's. No. You want that? Go on to some other conspiracy channel. This is giving you some insight of the world, but also skills, trades, techniques, stuff that I had learned that you can apply in everyday skills. It's just part of human nature. So the alarm clock is the answer to from birth to our first realization of control is the alarm clock. The assault of the alarm clock.
The alarm clock assault, indeed. Every morning, waking up at the same time unnaturally to something that has no care for where you were at in thought or development. Just, it has nothing to do with feelings or anything like that. Just every single morning, because when does that start? Generally when the parents have to go back to work.
And it's not that, to work I go. So do you, kid.
Yep. And it's not that even, you have the alarm clock in your child's room right next to them. It's that it's in the atmosphere. They can generally sense that there's commotion and stuff going on there. Obviously depending on the child, but we're talking even to a subconscious level here. So it just starts programming them before they can even really understand what's going on. So part of their development has to process these subconscious thoughts and feelings that are occurring in their environment. That's where product of environment is very applicable. We can't say that that's just it's black and white as that, but we can say that pretty much everything, every child, the vast majority of us have been subjected to this alarm clock assault and therefore conditioning, AI conditioning, our entire lives without us really even knowing what's been occurring. And what's interesting about this is how this one simple thing that we all just sort of seem to take for granted, like, well, that's just the way it is because you got to be on time, and we can't imagine a world where you're able to wake up and sleep whenever you want to and wake up and be somewhere because everything going on in the world, this economy and every job is just so important that you have to be there right on time every time at the same day. Otherwise, you're gonna have consequences. So it's now, not only are you now conditioning, you're not just conditioning them to wake up at a time that makes sense, that's like logical. It's only to satisfy a requirement that is based on the fear of having a consequence of losing your monetary sustenance so you can survive. So we're already presented with this reality where the truth of the matter is, when we look at the alarm clocks and the most prominent purpose of its existence is to simply perpetuate a monetary slave system.
Interrupt her too for just trying to get a steady pattern, and it's your pattern.
Oh, interrupter. That's what you said. Okay.
Interrupter is the foundation of how you're reconditioning.
Disruptor. Disrupt the sleep pattern.
Like why does a baby get to go to sleep when he's tired and wake up when he's done? Why? But then there's people who are like, hey, he's been asleep for more than 3 hours. They said we got to wake him up every hour so he gets to sleep when we do and wakes up when we're done. Do you understand why babies just like, and And it's like even when kids get to they're like, I just want to sleep more. I don't want to like. Well, that's
I'm
not the way it
tired
is.
in the morning.
See,
Like, oh, just get up.
but then that becomes,
go to
that's
school.
just laziness. No, it's not, because some people, after they get out of that condition of, oh, well, school starts at, what the fuck, 7:40 and ends at 3:05? Like,
8:15,
what the
but it's
fuck
like
is
you're
going?
there. That's when class starts.
Yeah, and our
So it's
time
like-
is late.
and-
And it's like, well, for Christ, now you got to look at it from the, now, but when people get out of, even when they go to like college, oh, I didn't know there were night classes. They probably study so much more. Maybe there's people that after they turn 18 and get in the real world and start a job, they work better from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. They love to fucking not see the sunlight.
And
they
some
just-
people, overnight. Some
those night, they
people
call
love
them the graveyard.
Graveyard
The
hours.
graveyard.
I've worked that shift.
See, and people are like, man, this is. And imagine if that was
different.
just your life, where you had accessibility of everything, to be conditioned to be, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm going to school at 4 in the afternoon, and no, that's not the. No, see how you.
Yeah.
So that's.
No, God. I mean, we'll get into the concept of. I suppose this is as good a time as any, is bringing in the concept of AI being used against us, because that's a major threat to us, and we're gonna again talk about this a bit later in more detail when we get to interview Kev a bit. But the idea of AI being used to really more waste our time and preoccupy our time versus being tuned to really actually be more convenient. And we'll iron out some of those details a bit later, but being preconditioned to adopt AI in such a prominent way in our lives that it's just, when you wake up, like, we can get into talking about how that makes us also not just more susceptible to accept things like AI, but it also makes us very susceptible to things that are trying to take advantage of us through our mental fatigue, such as frequency manipulation, hypnotism, repetitive news cycles, shock and awe type of, chemical drip, serotonin, fear-based stimulation type of things, excitement-based things, Super Bowl every year at this time. We've talked about on this, the placement of holidays, all syncing up with the ingestion of sugar to achieve really a alchemical outcome of a end user being easily hypnotized, easily fatigued, where then that person, that individual, is so much more willing to accept the illusion of the way that the world is presented to them, the way that this system wants them to be interacting with the system, instead of the end user thinking for themselves critically and being able to train their brain in the ways they want to do the things that they want to, explore their true capabilities and potential. So when we're talking about the things like the assault of the alarm clock, we're talking about the assault of our humanity, our true potential being experienced in each and every person that is particularly going through this. And I want to speak to the hypnotism part of this through the fatigue, the mental fatigue of just having to be on autopilot, because when you have to wake up and you have to be somewhere, it's like you just kind of put yourself on autopilot. So I'm thinking of, young kids growing up where they haven't had thought guidance in their lives. Their thoughts are so susceptible to everything around them, and their brains are waking up so tired on autopilot. but the first thing they're putting in their head is Taylor Swift's new album. Thou who shall not be mentioned again on this podcast, hopefully. But
she's still here.
It just dropped, so it's kind of relevant, and we're seeing the effect right now of it happen, of it just. It's already got their sinkers in before any of them are even thinking about the lyrics critically. And Kev was saying, I was just listening to it, and there was a song that's basically like, hey, Seth, your parents are misguiding you because they want to stuff you in a box that isn't really going to represent your best interest because of X, Y, Z. And, it's pure manipulation when we can, to somebody able to... who has more of the puzzle pieces of this picture filled in.
It's tough to say, hey, Mom, Dad, Taylor Swift said that. No. We don't do it that way. We're not going down. Our family is, you can't wear this and you can't do that. And you're lucky you even can listen to Taylor Swift because we're just not restricting you on that. But God, you keep up with that attitude, miss, and we're going to take your Taylor Swift away.
Yeah. I want to tell a quick story of a real life scenario that I stuck out in my mind about this. I was at the gas station and there was a shift change. It was one of the younger employees, so she had just come from school, and you could tell she was just tired. And it's like the adults were just like, "Oh, you can sleep when you're dead," type of attitude, and she's like. You could tell it just turned her off even more. She's like, because she says to me, she's like, I absolutely hate it when the adults say that. It's like they don't understand. Like I need to sleep because I'm like my brain needs to rest and I need to grow type of thing. It's like she still was in the state like she got it. Like no, you guys are nuts. Like I need to sleep. Like this society is just trying to drain you and just condition you into like, oh, it's just normal to be tired. Like just go get your sugar frappuccino from Starbucks and thou which shall not be named on this podcast. And you'll be fine. Just gut it up, go through it. And you get to college and it ends up being a Adderall type of situation because you're so tired. How are you ever going to get this stuff done? So it's like you either do not have a social life or you find chemical stimulation because you've already been, again, programmed and conditioned along with AI here with alcohol. Alongside, not with side.
They're like, hey, when the sun goes down, it's time to get fucked up and drunk.
Right.
That's what time it is. No. That's your time to settle and rest. No. The alcohol is one of those deceptive. They want to get you on that to get. That's just part of it.
And what is your alcohol? And what does alcohol do? Let's speak to
it's the most advertised
to the second stomach situation. Yeah. So now we have the alarm clock aimed at your brain. We already know that you're tired. Now we're gonna introduce you to alcohol. When your post puberty development begins. Yeah. So right at that state, let's introduce something that even when you drink alcohol, let's say I'll speak from experience. I cut alcohol out for at least a year. I had some whiskey, and the result was I could feel it numbing my tongue and then numbing my stomach. And basically what that does is alcohol also blocks your ability to absorb nutrients. So now I've got you again, sleepy. Yeah. Now I'm numbing down your second brain in your stomach. So now not only is your natural circadian rhythm off, your hunger and your appetite is being suppressed chemically. Those two things, AI and alcohol, are two of the most...
And the Adderall.
Well...
So you got to take the Adderall to stay up. You got to get Xanax to stay down. You got to get wine and booze to keep you off. The uppers, the downers. And then you got to watch football to watch sports. That's right. Are a gateway. But you mix all that together, it's like, wow. Oh my God, that sports team is going to change my week if they win. Or if they lose, now I gotta fucking deal with all the bullshit at
emotion
work.
that
Like,
gets pulled
I told
out
you
of
your
it, yeah.
team wasn't. Now it's like, man.
An
But then the
attachment,
same people
yeah.
will go and get wasted and spend friendship or gain friendships from that. We know we hate each other's team, but hey, we love each other. And like, here, I'll get the next round. You know, like it's the. But then it becomes. COVID really did that for a lot. Like that really shifted the whole like using alcohol as a suppressant.
Yeah.
And
'Cause the
it
liquor
made
stores
people
stayed
really
open,
bad
imagine
alcoholics because when they started releasing the barnyards back out into the public when they were allowed to take their masks off but still remain on lockdown in a sense. But when they would go to the bar, the bartender's like, okay, I'll take a Crown of Coke, and then they're like, man, like, we don't mix Coke with any of it. It's just like, we've been drinking straight drinks for like 18 months, so I'm just going to need to, like, let's step up our liquor level here a little bit, because it's going to take me a lot to get drunk. And by the way, here's a $40 tip. Just keep them coming. You know, but the perception was always like, man, people... It was nothing for the people to go out and like, man, I ain't even buzzed. Like, damn, we got to get back home, do COVID drinking.
Yeah, this is a great time to bring in what we were talking about. We ended up with a phrase the other day. It's growing up as robots. Just a nice, like, sort of Zen metaphor type of phrase. Something to think about. And also... where that led was, this is the digital barnyard, and emphasis on bar and yard, and the digital aspect of it. Alcohol, AI, Adderall,
Xanax too.
Yeah, and your slew of pharmaceuticals. Pick your poison there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to tie those two phrases in there because I think we might end up using that as a little bit of a merchandise idea. But on to the digital barnyard phrase and metaphor, growing up as robots. Think about, this might be a new subject to somebody or comparison, but to some of you it's not, where you can take a computer chip or a motherboard or an electronics board of a lot of different sizes and compare it to a city, an overview of a city. A Super Bowl being a capacitor type of thing, and it may not be exact, but it's pretty close. And then if that's new to you, sorry. But graduate already quickly and have another thought here where the power lines are so close to the roads. Why would they ever build the power lines right next to the roads? Oh, there's just no logical place to do it. And it was, they already had society and they just, put it right. Whatever fucking excuse you want to try to feed me. The reality is probably something different. Because why would you ever, put it right on a road where if you had a problem, like a tornado anywhere in the Midwest, or hurricane anywhere in the Southeast, why would you want them to be able to fall over the roads and endanger so much? Why would you put them underground for one? I understand the disadvantages, but just go along with it. Things aren't quite the way that they seem. Why would they put them right along an interstate for more of a better example sometimes than small highways and whatever rural areas? Harvesting human energy, think of it like a motherboard. You're requiring people, you're not giving people their personal helicopters, the vehicles that can fly in every direction. You're limiting us to ground travel on roads. You're not giving us off terrain, all terrain vehicles where we can just, hey, we'll find our way there. we can make a bunch of different paths, type of thing. Because no, it's all funneled. It's all the same. It has to be a certain way. Like maybe there's some energy manipulation and frequency manipulation occurring there, where it's like when they put you next to power lines, there's some sort of exchange, or maybe even harvesting of your energy, or just there's some sort of interaction. I don't want to go too deep on that, but I just want to put in the idea that this could actually be happening, and I just don't know like the reality of it, so I can't put words to it to say, hey, here's exactly what is happening here. But the subject's there, so for those of you who can, it might be of interest of yours to research that.
The power lines is a good example because over in Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Cambodia, Thailand, those Southwest Asia, those type of countries that are third world, not really, okay, Japan, their electric system, their power lines are everywhere. In the Philippines, they have typhoons that come and destroy parts of the island, but they have ways to have these power lines just effortlessly just out and about. Like if something went wrong, you would kill people if it fell down.
Yeah.
But they just managed to deal with it, and the power goes out, and they fix it.
Huh.
But then you go to a country like Dubai, their power line structure is it's rich. In America, we have a lot of power lines like on the interstate. So, I don't know. I just think that we could get away from, if other countries can do it, why are we still on this power lines?
Well, and imagine if it's something like it's the energy that we're taking out of the socket is actually our own energy that has been taken into these power lines and then run through a circuit where they can generate.
Maybe that's what they're using with the, over in those countries. They're using all of the energy because there's fucking cell phones everywhere.
Like it's
building
just
energy.
all the human energy. Like there's
Las
probably
Vegas
something
too.
to it, right?
They run that power on the solar.
Because like you're saying, what is it that they? You said something interesting. Now, why would they want us tired and hypnotized? And numb in the stomach, if they wanted our energy to be like really strong, where we're going to a sporting event to really, like that's where you see the most like emotion out of any people of their entire life. They're exuding them in these super capacitors that are like harvesting the energy of the place, right? And they're just pouring out their heart and soul into the fucking Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, Taylor. And all the meanwhile, it's like now they're going home, charging their iPhone, and it's their energy that they just gave out. Now, my angle on that was, why would they want that energy to be lessened instead of strong?
Because we have high functioning, high operative people then.
I would say
we would have ultra high operative people that are not I don't think the country is ready for all that. They need to have people stressed out, tired, anxiety.
Yeah.
Just
and
like in the education system, what do they want?
Emotion.
What does the education system do? They want
chaotic,
to stress test,
but controlled.
They want to stress test
chaos.
the controllable, but not let them be too smart about it, but also keep them in a confined hours, because some people can get the concept in 2 minutes, and some people are like, what the fuck, I'm wasting all this time, but I gotta be like conditioned to like this.
And because while you are hypnotized and tired, you will not be self-reflective in those moments where they are being milked by the narrative, the pattern that they're setting up, the drama in the sporting event. The end of the game, last drive of the game, Patrick Mahomes, baby, all the money's on the line.
Oh, and then you add gambling into it. I forgot about that one.
They
You
won't
gotta add
recognize
gambling
that
into
they are
the mix.
being manipulated, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're too tired.
Tired.
They're too fucking numbed down, and they just that you know what we're going for, people. Hopefully, we've kind of described it to you in a nice way there.
Yeah, you take your poison of what your entertainment energy value is away from that. That's all that is. That sports are. It's just a distraction. Movies are all that. You put yourself in like I said, the perception versus perspective. Everybody, when they see something exciting, they look at it from that like, oh my god, I feel like I had part of that players at it. But then they come back to reality. They flip the switch when it comes down to like, hey, you gotta like turn the things off. Oh yeah, great, but then you gotta come back, and that's why the government in the military, for example, is in a high ops tempo pace for all the time, because they need everybody to be at a high level alert. Think about the mundane routine that people have, that assaultive alarm clock. When you get in a high level training, you learn to, when you turn that, they know you can keep it, versus like you go home and it's like, oh my god, it's like but there's other people that have that, like people in the ER departments, they have that, but other people don't have that conditioning too, and that's just part of their maybe their job is high ops tempo for that short little time they're there. But if you replace that with the football game, you could actually be doing way more energy, and being like, well, that's just my way to burn energy, when you could be saving that for something even that would actually benefit you, versus, hey, we spent all this money and look at us, we're just a bunch of barnyards leaving this fucking stadium.
Barnyards.
We're leaving. We're going back to the barnyard, coming from the playpen. Yeah. Now we're released back into our own barnyard, and then bam,
we're going to the superconductor just.
But then you got to look
give
at
off some energy.
You got to look at it from other, like China. They don't have that fucking. They don't replace their with sports. China replaces it with more fucking information and more learn. They're like high up. They're that high ups of just like, because they have to replace. We have options to replace ours. Ice cream. That's like woo. Or your drug of choice, alcohol. Could be sugar. Who the fuck knows? But if you mix it all and then you go to something that's even more elaborate, now you're like putting almost like borderline like steroids into your head about woo, dopamine and all this other stuff. But then when it wears out, it's like, well, shit. No wonder why people feel like shit. They go on vacation for a week and they're like, fuck this. I need a vacation after vacation. I'm tired as fuck. Yeah, because you can't go to Vegas and then come back and be like, well, I'm gonna keep that fucking ride going. There's magic pills, but as far as, like we said, from birth to the structure, it's when you get 18, you got two choices. You're gonna take a path of high ops, fucking chaos, something unique, something you're gonna come across, or you're gonna take the path of society says, okay, we're going to throw high ops temp at you, but we're also going to give you some vacation. We're going to put you in where your stress is going to be somewhat manageable, but you're going to have to get used to it, because people that don't get used to it are like, well, what do I do now?
Right.
I got to figure out, well, if you got to figure out something, you're going to have to at least try to, what's the best route? That's when COVID, when people started working home, they became more productive, and companies were making less, or were having to pay less money, and mothers were able to stay at home with their kids. See how that COVID did good, great things. Contact delivery. I don't want to talk to nobody. I get in a Lyft drive now. I can have a box check where fucking don't ask me a question. Just drive me to where I'm going. Great. Now we got both those killed in two birds. It took that COVID to really and then other people are like, well, even kids in school.
Things that we
they
should
can
have
stay
had
at home
too.
and learn, versus going to sit around a bunch of people they don't like and pretend to like. Here's the thing. When you're cultured and conditioned to try to fit in, that's the other thing. You can't make everybody happy when you're growing up, and even in the education system. Try that. You can't fucking do it for one day. Tell your kids, did you make 5 people happy today? Fuck no, I made 2 people happy, 3 people fucking are mad. Now, when they get growing up and they get out in the world, they decide, hey, I'm going to follow that pattern, corporations, or I'm going to say, fuck you, and I'm going to not fit in and do my own thing because what I was doing was going to work, but everybody said, that's stupid. Well, that's the conditioning. Assault of alarm clock all the way up to that part of life. So that's your baseline. That's your baseline for life right there. And if you go against anything before that, you could be a YouTube podcaster and be a millionaire, but your parents can be arrested because you're not going to school and finishing fucking what's even a class you wouldn't even need? Chemistry. Why the fuck kid need chemistry unless he's teaching a YouTube cast on chemistry and he's teaching it? He's smarter than the teacher. No. He's doing on video games. And the parents are like, well, he's being lazy. Well, shit, the kid thought differently and he's getting punished for it.
Yeah, it's got no drive.
So that's when you disappear as a young. You're like, I'm out of here. Fuck you guys.
Oh, I think.
You can. You're in our house, 18 years old. You know what, bitch? All right, then I'll go join the government at 16. They need plenty of people. My advanced information. I could just go get a job right now and fuck you. No.
Yeah.
Watch, see how that's quick that would go.
Oh, the disconnect happens very early in life.
And people either accept the fact that
they find a crab, they find a bucket of crabs and they go with it.
But now with the advancement of so many resources to get shit done, it's almost like, things are changing from the assault of the alarm clock to the assault of the AI system on top of the system.
Yeah.
You're getting assaulted all the way until you're able to say fuck you to
now
whoever,
AI
not have consequences.
Now it's like AI is even telling you when to set your alarm clock.
And they're correcting everything you say and type. They're making everything. You ain't even learning the word. You ain't even learning how to spell the word perspective versus the word perception because you can't even type that word. You don't even know what those people don't know what those words are.
Yeah.
But when you type it and the computer puts it on the paper, you sound really smart, but you couldn't break that down. The AI is just taking over your ability, just like music. It's just, you may be 50% good, but fuck, we'll make it sound 90%.
Yeah, to even describe the reality.
It's right in the paper. You throw it in there and it's what it is, man.
So imagine now that all the energy at that superconductor is actually like when it's being given off and absorbed, that it's also being pumped out to the grid, all the energy, all the power lines and everything, and through wireless systems. Like, so that's why, like, when something's happening, it's also like you can sort of kind of feel it in the atmosphere too, because it's the atmosphere is being charged with that energy coming from that stadium. It's because it literally is in the atmosphere. Now, on two different frequency levels, where it's like we're talking about our consciousness level and our natural connection to it, where we're connected to the people and having the experience and like a human collective consciousness. Then we're also being susceptible to it on the power frequency grid, the power grid manipulation, where they're taking that energy and then pumping it back out, and who knows how differently they might be tuning it and amplifying it in different ways. And one way that they're augmenting that frequency manipulation is through the radio, because when you're aware of like the energy spectrum on top of a power grid manipulation, you can play certain songs in certain areas at certain times to evoke more of that energy that they're looking for. So it's like an AI system that's able to take the energy and then pump it back out, and then therefore even kind of manipulate an echo response and an auxiliary or residual response, and milk the energy again. So very interesting idea there. Probably something to it. Again, hard to prove on a level that where we're at right now, but I would say something to be suspicious of, skeptical of. Put it in your thoughts. Be aware of it.
Imagine that stadium structure. There's, we'll say 80,000 people. It's packed, right?
Yeah.
And everybody has a cell phone in some form way at that place.
Hot dog.
One family has a cell phone, or maybe there's 5 people that have cell phones in that family.
We can only hope the whole family has cell phones. 5G cell phones.
5G.
Yeah.
Now, imagine you take the algorithms of everybody just in that stadium,
all with Wi-Fi.
All
and,
with their,
and,
all with
and
their,
Bluetooth
everybody
on.
in there,
Like
with their
Wi-Fi and
with their
Bluetooth on as well.
with their IP addresses
Yep.
in that stadium, their phone numbers, and imagine you get that all into one big collection database at the
Oh,
stadium,
yeah.
and watch this, and like imagine if they could show like how many connections are people connected to in the stadium, how many cell phones are connected through people that know this person that are RC, like if you added up, if
Imagine
you
the
thought
heat
about that in a
signature.
major city that maybe there's tourists that are still connected to, if you took it all, what do you think the number would come up with if they just snapped all the information and then they put it in and they came up with an algorithm and they said that 70% of this entire stadium is all connected through some, either directly through your cell phone or your cell phone is connected to that person that's sitting in row C in section 104. 104 is connected to somebody over in that section. You see how the whole stadium could be connected, not even know it, that
Right.
like they know,
Yeah.
like they're all part of.
Yeah.
It's similar to what they do on the for the algorithms now for collecting for what they want to advertise per people. It's like if I have 10 people on my contact list that we're all into sports cards, they're just going to attack with whatever AI to that. But in a whole set, imagine the sociology experiment. You could just, if you had all the time to spend with everybody there, be like, take your phones away and try to, you would just map it out. It would take you fucking like 6 months to figure out how everybody knows everybody, right?
Yeah.
But what if you got that information? You're like, oh my God, there was on the algorithms, it showed there was 4 relatives at that game I didn't even know about. But now it's like, hey, why were they at the game? Oh, did they want to be known they were at the game? Kind of like those people that want to get interviewed, but they're like, oh shit, my wife doesn't know I'm in Vegas. Like, they're on TV. Can you tell us about the flooding going on in Vegas? And they're like, I don't want to talk to you. And my wife, that would be the connectivity, that algorithm that would be very interesting.
Yeah,
And
that
that's
data
just a
would be
sports stadium.
very interesting to look at. The heat.
And you look at the
signatures would
maybe
be able to look at.
maybe they're all connected to something. It could
Just
be good or
energy
bad.
usage.
Imagine that.
I mean, I didn't even really get into the cell phone as an energy absorber.
That's
you
what I
know?
mean. You have,
But it's certainly possible. One thing I wanted to add to the power grid thing was the windmills for weather control, being able to cause the bottom layer, spray something up in the atmosphere, top layer, and then have the bottom just be sifting. It's creating movement. Just wanted to present that idea. I don't want to go too far into that one, but talk to people that live by windmills, and they're like, man, those things, they turn at the same speed no matter how fast the wind is going, and it's a lot of times it sure seems like they're turning when there's no wind, and you can hear the engine just like cranking on it. It's like no, it sounds like the engine's fucking turning those blades right now. It doesn't sound like there's any wind. I can see that there's no wind, there's no wind. And then people will just be like, yeah, but another 100 feet up there's probably wind. But it's like, yeah, the same amount of wind that would be available to turn that big blade, that big.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't make sense. So there's something else kind of going on there.
But sometimes some are moving and some are not. It's like,
Yeah.
are they broke? Are they off?
Well, they do break a lot
Do they
of
have too
times.
much energy they built up? Do they need a nap? Are they conditioned to wake up to an assaulting windmill clock and it says, hey, time to wake up, windmill, get to work? No, I need to rest more. Fuck you. That's how robotics are going out. Biostatistics, algorithm robotics for kids. The genetic modification, what do you call the test tubing? That's where we're going.
Yeah.
That's the windmill. The windmill apparently does what it does when it's not supposed to, and it does what it does when it should. I don't understand
It's
there's something going on.
You can look into the energy that they actually create. It's not even fiscally responsible to put it in, because you don't really get as much as it costs to even put it in and maintain.
Yeah.
So
Energy.
the lifespan on them is 20 years. So it's it's just kind of a big scam.
I mean, I don't even know what those things probably run to build, but I can't fathom that they're very. much to keep operational, or keep
just
checking, or do they just?
I'm
do
not
they work
against
the
wind.
investment.
I'm not against wind energy, but it's like that's not what they're doing. Is not wind energy. It's a little. They mean something else.
Maybe there's something
just say
spooky
that.
going on with it.
Yeah, something spooky going on. It was just put it at that. So, all right. Moving on just a little bit. Let's add a couple more things in here. The computer chips in all of the electronics, cars, generally kind of made by not in America. Most of them coming from China or somewhere else, Taiwan maybe. I don't know exactly where they're all coming from, but I want to combine that idea with, an AI resource control, where now one country who can manufacture all these things could possibly manufacture something in. Before I get into a story about a movie with a guy who worked for the NSA where the computer chips was kind of a apocalypse scenario. The TV and radio now in regards to manipulating our possible thought spectrum, in regards to controlling the digital barnyard and the thought spectrum that it has. The superconductor taking in the energy at the Super Bowl releases all the energy out. They know what TV news programs, movies, Friday Night Lights, they know to play those fucking old sports movies.
They know to play Half Baked on 420, motherfuckers.
Right. So
they know.
while they're milking it, what they're also doing is they are manipulating, boxing in our thought and emotional spectrum experience. I wanted to touch on that too, because it's like, remember, everything here is now is boxed in to a fatigued mind that's also being hypnotized. And also, if you're consuming alcohol, you're doing a whole nother thing to the whole spectrum that's making it even worse.
420 is the holiday that everybody reminisces.
Yeah, you can self-reflect in the smoke.
And it's the one day where
the
you have to
alcohol is
plan
no
your
joke.
week ahead, where you're not going to be drug tested if you're in a company. Now, I'm not recommending people smoke weed, not trying to go get the drug test, but it's one of those holidays where you just gotta, take a week off. Use your vacation but then people be complacent. They'll be like, man, I need that every week. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
The weed's the problem, and they want to blame, oh, it was the booze, oh, it was no sleep. Like, what do you do?
Mm-hmm. They've got
They give you the adders. They give you the Xannies. And then they give you, you can even pay somebody to use cognitive behavior therapy for managing sleep, for managing stress, managing situations. Now, that's a whole nother like $5,000 you got to pay into the gov to, hey, I need help. No, we could have trapped you that when you was 6. Perspective versus perception. You gotta pay a psychologist $1,000 to even get that concept when you learn it on this cast for free. And that's one thing that we'll touch on. But when you're talking about that is exactly what is going on with all of this.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So let's throw on top of that, while we're cooking here, now on top of the idea, right, the reality that we've got boxed in, tired, hypnotized people who have a limited thought and emotional experience being presented to them because they're in basically a controlled system. Now let's talk about the idea of what seems to be coming down the pipeline in America of creating an environment and a population of unskilled workers, where college is insanely expensive these days, and all the prices of everything are going up, and wages are not going up along with them. Sure, they raised the allow you to go work at Taco John's
and they might throw you $2,000 before the election, right? Watch that. June fucking, they get, here's money for everybody for the, here's fucking free money for the holidays.
Yeah.
But then on the contrary is the control as far as the cost of living has been going up and the chances of surviving have been going down. When I mean surviving, I mean fucking not wanting to off yourself to have to go back to this fucking outside of the... You're going into one barnyard to another barnyard matrix when outside of the barnyard matrix is like a whole nother level of thinking and a path to like get the fuck out of all this. And even if you can just solve one or two little things, you're on a path to start your baseline. You gotta build a baseline before you're like, hey, this, you know what? I'm in control, but you know what? I can accept the fact of this, but I gotta change that because there's no... Once you're limited on how much money you can make, and how many hours you can't physically work. But you know what? All them hours is a lot. When you're just really not doing a lot of things, and if your brain could just sleep when you're really not, that would be like the miracle. Just like a robot. That's why in like Japan, it's mandatory that the workers that are working for like construction, like you see construction workers in the U.S. working, they're eating on their lunch and they're fucking back to work. Like 15 minutes, guys. Actually, to make it 10. Like that's their type of that's their high ops temp. You see what I'm saying? But that's crack bacon work, and that's not using your head. That's just like you're using a part of your body that's gonna make money, but you're gonna be fucking broken by the time you're whatever age. It could be 25, it could be 50, it could be 70. I know people doing that, but then now you got all that hours that is there. Now you're limited on you're trapped. That's the trap. Now you add debt. You add the student loan, whatever. You're waiting for the government to take care of you. You're waiting for all, you're just trapped. People are trapped.
Yep.
And it's overwhelming. It's absolutely going to destroy our future entrepreneurs that aren't in the barnyard. People that are going to use their head and use technology to say, fuck you, I'm gonna fucking do what I gotta do, and I'm gonna do what I gotta do, and I ain't going down the path. Families have now realized that normal is boring. Just the way it is not going to be the way it is. That's how they are. That's that's how it's always been. Fuck that. It's not. That's starting over. That's start now, I tell people. Just start now. And then fucking let's go. But if you're so consumed with all this stress, how are you gonna fucking have a good night's sleep? Without, oh my God, I'm fucking Friday, Saturday, and here comes Sunday, have a fucking ulcer, wake up when they're 70 and die, or hell, wake up when they're 70, have millions of dollars, and then they, like, I gotta go back to work. I'm a barnyard. I'm promoted operations in charge of barnyard, not operations in charge of a command over in the fucking over in Pacific Command, not owner operator of Amazon Corporation, motherfucker. You're the oldest barnyard. You're the oldest animal in the barnyard, and you are supposed to be known as successful. Really? All right. That's how
experience,
that's how some people, other people are like, man, that's not how it is. You know what? If that's not how it is for you, great, you figured it out. You're on a different path. I'm talking to the people that are stuck. People are stuck in marriages that they don't like. People are stuck with kids that they don't want. The kids are too tech smart, and that's where this whole thing comes around. How are you going to program sheep that have been for generations? Now you're going to try to teach them all this tech shit? No, they're going to be trapped at the cashier. What happens when the cashier can't take cash? There's no more cashiers. Where does that cashier go? She's dead. When she retires, go home. Like Shawshank, when old Brooks Hamlin got released, he was institutionalized. He didn't know anything outside of prison. When he went out, he died. That's how America's set up to do.
Yeah.
40 years, 80,000 hours of work to get a fucking social check, and hopefully you make it in the land of opportunity. You know what? This is the greatest country in the world. I love every time I would come back to America and step down, I'm like, it's so good to be back in America. We have such freedom here, but we have such a divided country and all this chaos. So that's where we have this a bubble, and it's like if you're not looking at this bubble from the outside, you are in the bubble, and you're gonna pop, and people are gonna be like, "What the fuck happened?"
Right, and all the rest
What
of
I
the
shoulda,
atmosphere
coulda,
outside the
shoulda,
bubble
or
is gonna rush
should've,
in.
shouldn't have, wish have, and then it's all about they're gonna be swimming. Oh my God, the government, they took away the student loan. Great. Oh, I'm still fucking up. Like they never get free.
Yeah.
And I talk about free. First, time freedom is the freest ultimatum. You have the unlimited time freedom. You have choices. You can do whatever you want. A lot of people wait until they have all that. Now they're like, oh my God, my grandkids hate me and I have millions of dollars. I'm going to go blow it at the casino. Fuck you. But they don't enjoy the time freedom. They want that crabs in the corporation with the other barnyard animals, and they're like, man, you can't retire, you're too young, and she's been here since yeah. And then they're like, I don't know what to do with my life. And then you think they're going to travel the world when they get to 65? I've fucking traveled the world, 78 countries. I've lived in multiple. Trust me, it was exhausting flying from O'Hare to Narita, Japan 17 times. And I did it 2 other times for vacation. And trust me, it's exhausting, but that's not time freedom to me. That was just like time freedom is an ultimatum. But if people don't have that, they're trapped. And then we got here thing. Let's fast forward. How do we change the world? We'll get into that. So that's just how are we going to change this world? How are we going to reunite this world? That's one example. And we got to start with our own bubble. Because there's a bubble outside the United States that has so much shit our dreams are our nightmares are people's dreams, and our dreams are other people's nightmares when you look at it from the outside. My nightmares were over in other countries. I would be like, that'd be a nightmare to me, but that would be like, oh my God, that's a dream to me. I mean, you've been to you've seen the Statue of Liberty? Yeah, it's fucking cool. Oh my God, that's like their dream. Just a different way. It's like and that's not even a nightmare, but I'm saying like how running water out of a tap. That won't poison me when I'm in Cambodia.
Right.
I'm like, that would be a dream to somebody have that kind of water in their fucking available, because their stomachs and intestines get completely dissolved. And I even know when I lived over, my stomach was so like fucked up. It took me 5 years to figure out how to get how do I get my body on path? Because I would come back, I would drink like milk that Americans were like, man, this is good milk. It's too fucking rich, and so
interesting.
That's just a little parallel in there.
We'll tie back to some of that. So yeah, the idea that AI, the system here, is really conditioning Americans right now to be unskilled, possibly to set us up for a situation where Americans want to leave America. We've had all this mass migration. There's so much talk like on the street of like, all these immigrants are getting free this, free that, free everything, and it's like they're just setting us up where it's like now the news any day could just be like, well, there was a terrorist attack from blah blah blah, and we think it was insurgents from the Taliban coming back from blah. They can make up whatever they want. They have a stage now, and it certainly seems that the push we're seeing, just from what I kind of said, the prices of education, the way that education is. The prices, inflation, everything, the cost, it's like the Taylor Swift albums dumbing everybody down, total boxed in experience where it's like people aren't really even experiencing what
election
it is. Election year coming around.
It's been election year for fucking 8 years, okay?
It's like
it's not an election year.
They want Americans not to be skilled workers. Like they want us just like okay.
That's modern day slavery.
So
just in a legal way.
Now that we've touched on
and
that
they
idea,
tax you, motherfucker. They tax you people. They pay the taxes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that we've touched on all that idea, let's shift again here into the next bit. I want to mention AI being a source of information superiority. I just want that information superiority is a nice phrase that a lot of people will understand. And AI as most people's source of information superiority should make sense to them in a way that they can take that idea and run with it and apply it to a lot of experiences and situations, their daily experience basically. I'm thinking of how to phrase this, Kev, to get into this next spot. Because I like the idea. I just want to make sure if maybe we should talk about kind of like reuniting. We had written down here as kind of a joke, like Germany can reunite the world. We're working with an artist from Germany.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch.
I guess this is a little bit of side
Alles
topic from the
klar.
lesson.
Guten Tag, Frieden.
We'll take a slight coffee break for everybody if you want to
Kohi onegashimasu.
take a moment. I'll tell a bit of a story here. Well, it's not a bit of a story, but it's sort of a story. As when we were looking for a logo for the website and merchandise, worked with a couple artists, talked to several people, and it's like, some people were busy. They thought the idea was great. Then they never got back to us, or just weren't really capable of doing what we wanted. We had merchandise actually created, and it kind of fell through, and just didn't turn out the way we wanted. But at first, we wanted to kind of keep everything local. But then, just kind of natural occurrences happened, and since Kev kind of has lived around the world, it was kind of like, local.
6 continents.
Local for us.
Can't confirm Antarctica
Kind
or
of
deny,
means
but
everywhere.
6 continents.
Yeah.
I have absolutely been to.
So local for us kind of means, international.
Yep.
So when the opportunity presented itself, it just, it's again organically happened.
We got to hit the global, like you said, change the world.
Yeah.
The big brain world.
And we're also kind of playing on the, not necessarily joke, but just sort of joke that, Germans, they just always want to take over, run everything, It's like...
Nein, bitte, nein. Autobahn, nein. Speed limit, nein. Prostitution, ja.
When the reality
Legalize
comes to it,
drugs, ja.
They seem to have a pretty good system that seems to be strong and working for
It's 38 million people. Woman, Angela Merkel, from 2002 to 2020.
Whatever it is, the
Socialist country, too.
idea that it's like, why, if they have things kind of working,
They do.
it's like we could apply their template to each state in America.
But here's the thing. You could do it to 38 million people in one state. You can't do it to the entire... You can't.
Right.
There's no possible. It'd be like Germany becoming all of what Sweden does. No, the Sweden taxes are 58% tax. Germany is a flat like 24% or something. It could have changed. Now Europe is absolutely, as far as they have it figured out. They don't have AC, but it's different. Just little things like that. We can get into the cultural difference, like you were saying.
That's what I'm building up towards.
How do you go to the different beliefs of the world? Like
Yeah,
that
that's
will tie.
we'll get it
and
right
I just
there.
wanted to emphasize. You mentioned Germany. That's
Yeah.
that's your starting ground for a country. If you want to get out of America, you're gonna go to Germany. Don't go to Asia. Don't go to Australia. Okay, Dubai. Yep. Germany, though, if you want your freedom to. Because look at how many countries there's, like, what?
Yeah,
20,
good point.
29 countries you can get to within, not even 24 hours. You have to get up to Finland, Sweden, and Norway. You can get there up to the Bremerhaven, Germany, take a ship up there. You could live up there and nobody would ever know it. There's no, passport control in the ports up there. Fuck, you live in Europe, in a month I could have some sort of citizenship there because I've lived there. I could go talk to landlords and I'm like, hey, I'm back. And they're like, talk, and they would hold me as like nobody would know where I was in the world. I could disappear to any continent right now and live, and I'd tell them, hey, I'm here for a year. They wouldn't even know who I know, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, the connection.
So that's where we kind of had Germany, can you reunite the world?
Mm-hmm.
We were running with that as a nice phrase joke. But then we also wanted to, you know, on a more serious note, it's actually a serious part of this conversation is, you know, how do we actually reunite the world? How is it even possible to change the trajectory of where this AI's system and other systems, right? But where this is all going? Do we have the ability to get to everybody and educate them to a point where they are able to ascend mentally and spiritually to the point where it's like they can see all of these things that we're talking about, the threat of them, the reality of how it's impacting all of our lives, and we can just make a conscious choice to move society away from that. Like, wouldn't that be nice? So I asked Kev, and well, this is where we're going to start to get into a bit of more of like a question and answer from Kev here.
My favorite Q&A.
I asked him, and you don't have to respond to this part, but I asked him, is there any what would it take for it to in the world for something to happen, for the whole world to unite, for us, you know, can Big Brain University get to everybody? Like, can we even get to China? Can we get to Japan? You know, where is our even possible audience? So then it was like, well, okay, so we're limited to basically Europe, and maybe some South, maybe Africa, African countries, maybe South America, but we're limited. So then I asked him, I narrowed the scope. I asked him, well, can Big Brain University save the USA? Can we get to enough places where the material and information presented can reach the people's ears enough to the point where, like what I just said, can happen. People can transcend, ascend to the next level. We can get to a society that makes more sense. And really, this all is possible. I'm not going to go too far on this. I just want to mention it all is possible because this society right now is the result of a karmic choice where the people are perpetuating it themselves. And we do have the power to change it. It's just how do we do that? Because what we're dealing with is a very multifaceted systemic system that we don't fully understand the entire apparatus. So while you're chewing on that, now I'm going to bring
do you want me to answer that question? Or do you want me to save it? Or was it another?
I want you to save it,
okay.
Sort of.
All right. I could give you the quick answer and then elaborate later, so people will be like, "Oh, okay, we'll start there." This is the first.
Give us a starting point.
This is the first. This is
where I plan to go.
This is the first thing in order to start people. You can't fix it with money. You can't fix it with. What I'm saying is, if we're going to try to fix people, we have to first of all get people to do this. This is the number one secret that everybody can apply starting now. Even when they listen to the cast, oh, I'm going to use this to wonder why that. I'm going to use this to, wow, why are they saying that? That doesn't make sense, but it really does. It's easy, y'all. And the reason why a lot of y'all can't use this, you can use it on your own, but you can't use it in a job. You're barnyard trapped in rules, regulations, things. It's called this: perception versus perspective. Start there. If you can do that right there, if we can have everybody do that and start applying that, that's where you start. The fundamental that people all over the world have a perception versus perspective. The United States, it's just how do you change our perception? When we live in the greatest country in the world, we have all the resource assets. We just have a divided country that's just in full-on chaos. So that's my answer as far as start there.
Okay. Okay.
There's no other way. You can't start if you don't have that. You can't do anything else because
work
where
with
you're going to
those
get,
words.
you're going to be like, hey, I got all this money. Well, fuck, I'm still trapped in something. Well, now,
Absolutely.
no money. Okay, you have cancer. We just cured your cancer. Okay, but now
That
I'm
was
talking not even disasters. Just take your daily and just be like, okay, that's it. Start with your four walls. Start with your own family. Your kids are not gonna. If you teach the younger generation, they're gonna be like confused. But one day it'll snap and be like, yeah, fuck you, teacher. My perspective is not anything close to that. My perception is this.
Yeah, that's excellent.
And that's not even words you can use in school because it's called a biased. It's like almost debating politics because a lot of people be like, no, we don't do it that way. But the perception is no, they don't see it from a different lens.
That's a fantastic explanation and beginning, because what we're going to talk about next is belief systems. And I know it's a tough concept for many people to understand a mentality that doesn't involve belief. But the basis of it is on what Kev said, perception versus perspective. And when we're talking in that relation to a belief system, it is in a scenario example here, a religious person versus a different type of religious person, or somebody that lives in Southern America, southern part of the States versus northern part of the States versus a Midwestern part of the States versus Canada versus Germany versus Japan versus China versus bottom of the system in China versus middle system in China.
Well, there's no system in China. It's one system, and it's democracy and it's communism.
Well, I just mean like the people in the middle of it,
Yeah.
or like the ones that are working at the factories versus the ones that can travel to
or the
America.
ones that are working at factories that aren't jumping off the Apple building into the trampolines.
Right.
Talk about modern day slavery, but
So
that's okay for them.
on our building blocks here on this lesson, we have an end user who's boxed in by, he's mentally fatigued.
Yeah.
He's hypnotized. He's being boxed in where it's a struggle to separate perception versus perspective, and that they're also being attached to a belief system where in the belief system, each one of them, they all have their own words. Christianity has their set of words. Extreme Muslims have their own set of words. What those words repetitively, so now you're in a belief system, you're going to church all the time, these words and songs it's the same thing where it's hypnotizing hypnotically. I just want to mention that the words will incite hypnotism. So I want to draw the comparison that both belief systems are doing the same thing in this instance, even though they are completely separate words. Okay, so the same thing is happening though. Now, the main kind of idea here that I want people to be thinking about, the overall part, is ascension itself that we've mentioned. Ascension from this box of hypnotization and fatigue, right? The system. Can ascension result from each different belief system, or does it take a rejection of that belief system entirely to truly ascend to a level that Big Brain University can save the USA, Germany can reunite the world type of level? Okay, right? Before we go,
we'll start in Germany and go take it to the east.
Before we go, I wanna add just a little bit more. No, that's fine. That's fine. So then let's go. Yeah, then let's go into asking Kev about.
Guys, building this fence.
Now, all right, we got some neighbors building the fence as we're talking about division here and how
He's out there like,
how the
fuck your
belief system
division,
divides.
fuck your cast, fuck you.
He's like,
I'm like, come on, listen. He's like, I don't like your perspective,
keep
my
Big Brain
perception, you
University
bitch.
on that side.
He's
of the
like,
fence.
I'm gonna tear it all down. Ready to roll. All right.
All right, so short story, very quickly. I will pop into some chat rooms and just kind of incite some conversation, in regards to religion, if it's on the menu, right? If people are talking about it, and one of the things that was very interesting in one of the books that I read, the Bhagavad. Sorry, that one's just I don't say it very often. The Bhagavad Gita. One of coming from one of the oldest languages, if not the oldest languages, from the Vedic and Hindu, Indian sort of like holy scriptures, Buddhist type of text here. One of the key things in that book was the idea that two armies fighting a holy war or whatever war, they're coming against each other, they all get into the field, right? And before it's happening, like the general's having this conversation with God in his mind, like, can I go through this, command my army to go to war and kill these people who are brothers and cousins and have wives and children, and they're the same thing, he sees all the similarities of each warrior in this fight, and he's like, he has this moment of clarity where he's like, we're all here for the same belief, even though the word is different. But we're all going to go do the same thing in a word of a different God, but it's really all the exact same action, regardless of the belief. And then something very, very key and like that I learned that really unlocked like a door for me spiritually, that was like opened the ability to really like have this experience. I don't want to get into that, but it was really that ability to understand that belief itself is an act of thought that does not need to occur. And that what it actually is that it's an attachment of a false self, a false identity, an ego-based type of identity that we're basically just kind of tricked into through this system that we've been describing so far. And we don't really have the capacity to like wake up from it because we're so fatigued and hypnotized and told that this is just the way it is, and we're not even really presented a way of thought that doesn't fit into this little belief system schema, where it's like I say, oh, I believe in Jesus, and therefore, like, I am all these things, and it's like, what? No, like, you need to practice an art of selflessness, so there is no you there to be Christian, or there is no you there to believe in something. And it's this fundamental premise that, like, this Eastern philosophy and these scriptures have very present, that the Western, like, religion or, Christianity type of thing, and, like, even other just mainstream religions just do not seem to really teach or grasp. It's, like, really all this ego-centered based, like, you need to believe in something. The system does not care what you believe, it just needs you to believe in something. And also, when it has you in that mentality, it has you in the box, like the in the box mentality. I call it the belief mentality, a Kabbalistic spell trap, meaning it traps your mind in a cube where you can't think outside of that box. You're just like, well, if I don't believe anything, then that's a belief in nothing, and that itself is it's like you just get trapped in it, and like you can't ascend from that mentality where it's like you need to be able to test like your data sets through a set of information superiority, a set of processes. You need to be able to train your brain to do certain things, and brain training isn't found in a belief system. Hypnotism is found in a belief system. So let's not get too caught up on that. It's just a bit of information for you to think about and understand that this is happening, and it is a tool for division. Just as the fence building outside is a good sign of coming through the window that what we're talking about is indeed representing what is seems to be a more likely the version of reality that we are experiencing. Okay. So, to kind of demonstrate that point, I've asked Kev's, we've run through this kind of interview a little bit, kind of, just roughly. We don't have this scripted, but just kind of the idea. I asked him, what do you think about this? Like, what do you think about? Because you're a traveled guy. You have experiences that nobody else I'm going to talk to is going to be able to give back to me. Like, very few people in my life that I've been exposed to have been able to do this. And those people have always been major spiritual stepping stones on the path. So
the only other person that you could meet would be the Pope.
I go through my...
You could meet the Pope and he'd be the religious dude, but he knows all these languages. You ain't going to find anybody else, but I'm the opposite of the Pope. But I'm a world traveler, but I wasn't for religion. So we'll get that right there. Exactly. That's the advantage of this cast. You are going to you're not going to find the right answers. You're not going to find the wrong answers. You're going to find the correct. And you're also going to get a perception on your view, especially with your experience. Obviously, you did some traveling, and you have what people will need. Absolutely, AI protection, security. Meaning you're telling people this shit's real. You got the computer background, and we add that to all my stuff. Like, cool, man. This is a what do you call it? A perfect storm.
We do have an incredibly unique dynamic. Which means we have a lot of value to offer. So I recognize, I have this opportunity, I had this conversation where, people in the chat they just bucket the idea. They're like, no way. The differences in belief systems, big time. They're what make all the difference, and I'm like, yeah, but do they really? I kept challenging it again. Like, no, but they're all doing the same thing. It doesn't matter. They're going to church. You're going to church. You're saying verses. They're saying verses. You're praying. They're praying. You're killing in the name of. They're killing in the name of. It makes no fucking difference. It doesn't make any difference. As long as they got you to believe in one of these little holy books, you're going to fucking go to war with each other. And I can see it dividing you all in the chat. I can see it happening. You can't debate with me that it's not a tool of division, because that's all it's doing. And the only time that it's actually uniting any of you is when you'll agree to say the same fucking words. Because what you're saying, I believe in Jesus. It's like, well, I'm not going to say that I believe in Jesus, but I am a very spiritually devout person, and I experience things that I don't hear anybody else talking about, which is another thing we bring to this cast. I've shown you all that I can go 80% on using spiritual synchronicity, like putting it, hey, universe, 49ers tonight, over, under. I did it with the trifecta bets too, which are the hardest ones to hit, 80%, okay? So I've demonstrated to you all through a betting thing that there's a communication process
where you're getting the feeling from the control of what the controllers are doing.
You can communicate with the universe, and you can get information superiority through synchronistic experiences, which
reading the pattern.
I know that sounds like a tough thing to digest, but it's like, I'm telling you, I experience it all the time. Kev's witnessed it. So I'm like, okay. I have this conversation with these guys. I'm like, I need to be able to maybe present this idea, this thing about belief and what it's in. It's tough too in a chat room where you can only say a little bit. Like, I get it, right? But I'm always trying to refine my learning process. Okay, I've said enough about all that. But what I did was I came and talked to Kevin. I was like, let's add into this idea of the AI system in this cast. I asked him, do you see around the world people in every different area, Germany and Japan, Singapore, are they really,
every continent,
are they really doing anything differently, even though they're all like, in some of those places, like child trafficking was an absolute norm. And it's like, it's just, it's normal there.
Mm-hmm.
And where it's like in the US, it's like, like your blood would be boiling, but it's like they'd fucking shoot you because you were trying to interfere. And it's like, so before you divulge on that, we got to have that conversation. That's kind of what Kev's going to talk about. I thought there was maybe just something in my mind I wanted to say before we got to all that. No, I think it was just kind of a sub thought. And then I presented also, can they each ascend out of their own belief systems, or are we dealing with the situation that we got to get them out of that belief system where we're going to have to be able to explain what a belief mentality is and how they got kind of tricked into it, and here's the grass is greener route that of some sort of self-discovery. So without further ado,
that's a good one. First, I got to rewind about Japan real quick. You know how I was saying that it's mandatory to take naps? The workers in Japan, they have to be sleeping. The construction guy that's in charge of the business that's running it, he drives around from like 12 to 1 in the afternoon. And if he doesn't see him sleeping, they get in trouble. Like, they have to be sleeping. They have to sleep for that hour.
PST flashback.
And they have to. They work like
to kindergarten.
They work 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. They work 14 hours a day. But if the boss doesn't see them sleeping, that means the workers are not exhausted and they're not fake sleeping. They are sleeping. If they're awake and they're like, oh, he ain't worked hard enough. That's what they pump into. Except in America, it's you have to take a nap because what if you're the different way? It's forced. It's not forced over there. But if you are naturally tired, you will sleep from noon to 1, and then they eat after lunch.
Do you know how nice? Like I see a lot of people that go to the park just to take a nap.
Just to take a nap.
Yeah.
But these are people like in Europe, in Italy, they shut
very
down
helpful.
all of most. Okay, besides the military, obviously, but like in the cities, the bakeries shut down from like 1 to 2:30 every day, and they take a nap. In Germany, they drink during lunch hour. So they're like different. See, that's just the little shit that I was talking about with the
You can take a nap too if you want.
But if you do this in America and you're caught napping, they're like, oh, what the fuck are you napping for? Man, I just worked 6 hours. Oh shit, in Japan they start, that's 8 hours, then nap. That's a full day for some people, Jesus. No wonder why they needed a nap in Japan.
Goodness.
That's exactly what I saw at every place I went. I'm like, oh, the police officer, or not somebody's like sleeping in the car and it's a company. I'm like, yep, he's on lunch. He's on his siesta. And if the boss drives by and doesn't see him sleeping, you get punished or told. So, all right. So back to the religion.
Religion and quality of life.
Ask me a question so I can go into something.
So as far you in the Muslim, extreme kind of Muslim countries, I think that was where we had an example of where there might be an exception to the idea or let's say the template that the details of any belief system really matter.
Right.
because it doesn't really dictate any dramatic change in lifestyle that's really like, sure, you move to Germany, you're gonna make some sacrifices, you're gonna gain some things.
Yeah.
You move somewhere else, you're gonna make some sacrifices, you're gonna gain some things. But if you're devout, like extremist religion where like you're that 10-year-old that's getting handed the AK and they're like, go in here and fucking clear the room or you're gonna die. You're like, buck up, young man.
Yep.
To where it's like, okay, Western Christianity, it's like the most milquetoast thing you can get. Fucking pick a church, pick a denomination, and whichever one, it doesn't fucking matter. I just need you to believe something, just go, whatever. And you're not going to really get bothered. Like, yeah, there is their darker side to it, obviously, but we're talking about milquetoast Christianity versus extreme religion. Are there going to be noticeable details in that where this is an exception to our conversation? I think we did kind of end up with a little bit of a yes.
Well, I think first of all, you have to look at one thing: freedom. America has a freedom to go to so many different buildings and pray and religious, and so many different options, so many different names, so many available, right? You go to another country, man, good luck finding a religion that's not outside of the Peace Corps volunteers or the humanitarians that are pushing the religion, trying to save the world. I'm going to tell you right now, the whole belief is your belief. The whole belief is people's belief, people's perception versus perception. It's the perspective, all that stuff. Again, because I have been in some really great countries where I'm just like, man, God, why didn't you put like these mountains of Switzerland over in the Rockies of the mountains? Or why did we get the shaft of that fucking Grand Canyon when I saw the good parts like of those things, and there was no religion like thought process. That would have been like, oh God, put something like that. No, but then you go to another part of the world, and it's like, yeah, good luck praying for fucking anything that is accepted as normal. Meaning, if I saw
let me hone in a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, there you going. I think you had told me because we're going for examples of where religion, it's always divisive. It's basically always a divider. And you were saying that some areas of the world, a cross is going to get you in trouble.
Oh, you get kidnapped and fucking right. But those areas, you will already know. You're not just gonna book a trip to fucking Israel or wherever, right? This is throw an example. Someplace in the world without knowing the customs at the minimum. Singapore. We'll get into that.
Unless you're
but like a country, you can go to Europe and have a cross. You can have it hanging out, and nobody's gonna fuck with you. But there's extreme, like, you get to an airport and get out, and somebody says, "Hey, man, like you can't wear gold chains, like there's certain just religions though. It's if you don't express religion in another country that you're like trying to go, you just accept what like Buddhism, but you don't express it with any symbol that constitute as like." No difference from having like somebody from Europe that's extreme moving into any place in the United States and have a big Nazi flag. Nobody feel like he ain't a Nazi, but it's still that you will get people. It'll be on the news. Okay. People like get him out. Even kids that were born 18 years ago would still have this perception. That's a religion.
So in proper interview fashion, let me ask you this then. So, you're saying that there's no one religious symbol that you can wear in all the countries that you've been in and be safe?
No.
And,
yeah, I'm sorry.
Or that you could be safe, or it would be a conversation starter like, oh, this is going to bring us together even if you are of a different faith. Okay, so then let me ask you
this. The other ones would be the other religions that accept but then, like, you're not gonna get ISIS motherfucking no matter how far up that chain.
Sure.
But that's an example of an extreme. You'll never be able to change.
I'm glad you brought ISIS into it. So now let me ask you, on top of that, could you wear a Jordan or Nike logo in all of those same countries, ISIS included, and would you offend anybody? Or would it only serve as a tool to conversation starter, unity?
It's a unified symbol. Reading, if you show a terrorist, what is this, Michael? He's like, I want Jordans. He sees it as, I love America, Michael Jordan. I hate Christian. I hate anything else. Now you I go to any place in the world. You could see and they would point me to a shop that makes fake Jordans. You know, they know that's money.
Yeah.
But it's not a threat of, we're not going to disagree. If you hate Michael Jordan or Nike, who the fuck doesn't hate?
If anything,
who hates him?
It's going to be a conversation piece, anything.
Conversation, but that's true.
We don't speak the same language, but hey,
but that's
Jordan,
true. But here's the thing. Let's say you're wearing that.
Soccer.
Let's say we're not speaking English.
Yeah.
You're a guy, and we're becoming friends, and you're like, I can't wait for my friends to meet you. You're so funny. And Nike, Jordan, and I love America. But then, here's the thing. You guys are having a good conversation. You guys are having a good... This would be in a country that would be accepts that. Say, you're all good, you're cool, but all of a sudden, you bend down to maybe pick something off the floor, and now all of a sudden your necklace falls out, and now you're sitting up here with a cross. Now they could be
uh-oh.
That's where you don't carry jewelry anywhere never. It's no wedding ring. Just you don't. There is nothing that could because if you're going in as an extremist and all of a sudden you fucking you didn't know that. See how the perception.
Yeah.
So that's how it can go from. Right. But Nike worldwide, they love they think the Yankees is but that Yankee symbol could be something written in another language that means fuck you. If you look at it from an angle, if they don't know what the New York Yankees symbol is, because not everybody in the world knows New York Yankees. They know New York, Hollywood.
Yeah.
They don't know anything else.
Very interesting.
So that's to answer the symbolism for religion.
So that's just very interesting. So there wasn't really any significant difference in behavior, no matter the belief systems, no matter the language, customs,
conversation
whatever.
piece, 8 days till Sunday. Always.
See, when I traveled finishing up the production of my book, I did a little tour on the United States, so I visited about 25 states. And it was through places that I hadn't been yet. So in all my travels through the US and Europe, it was just one thing I was left with that I was surprised by. It just, no matter what, everybody was doing the same things. It was just, okay, you're eating slightly different food, and Americans, we get there's this weird hype around anything that's Florida or just out of their small area that you were brought up in. Now, that's not true for some well-traveled people in bigger areas, but even when you live in a bigger area, I always wanted to go see the trees down in Georgia and visit the swamp and bayou, and when I actually saw all those things, I was like, this place looks like it is just a cute big garden, that we're gonna put some exotic trees down here, put some different exotic trees over here, and then it's gonna have a different cultural feel, and and that's what people, they think that this cultural difference, it's such a big geographic area and so many people, but it's really not. And when you go down there and visit, it's no, I mean, you could pick up on the dialect and start to speak it pretty easily and blend in. And the point I'm kind of going for, again, is just reinforcing, it's just, you got
different languages, you're all not doing anything really that different. Different belief systems, it doesn't matter. The belief systems are just there to divide us because it's an attachment of your ego, and once you have an attachment to something, it can be used to divide you. That's what we're seeing. We can demonstrate that with a simple question like you can't even wear a cross around the world, but yeah, you can worship.
But it's one of those.
You can worship Michael fucking Jordan.
It's the most recognizable symbol.
That's true too.
Except what I mean is they know that means either whatever they perceive, just like when the Nazis.
Right.
It's all different. But the symbiotic and symbolic nature of both is you can be like, okay, if we put those together, it'll work around the world. And I will tell you that I remember in Dubai, the locals that would wear their attire. And they would have like Jordans on. They can wear they would have running shoes that were like recognizable in America. They had Nike shops in the malls there. Like they loved like that Nike stuff. You could wear Nike stuff out in public in Dubai and wouldn't offend anybody. Just like you said, if it's sold in Dubai, you can wear it. Meaning if it shows Kobe, but you might not be able to wear that in fucking China unless it's made there. But if they find out it's made in fucking in Saudi Arabia, they know you're buying it counterfeit, and you're like trying to be a counterfeit dealer in China. You know how fuck that. So
that is hilarious.
That's just one thing. Like some extreme terrorist groups would probably be like wearing, just whatever.
Interesting.
Just because it's like America. It looks just a symbol that means good around the world.
Okay.
Like any singer's type thing.
So then, another interesting question that I was able to ask you is that you obviously speak multiple languages, which most Americans will only ever speak English and maybe a little bit of a broken bit of another language, probably Spanish. And one thing you had told me was, you go into these other countries as an American and you're speaking their language even close to fluently. You don't necessarily become interesting to them in a good way. You become interesting to them as, who the fuck is this? What the fuck are they doing here? And this goes back to this perspective versus perception that the Americans don't have, because again, we're alarm clocks, fatigued, hypnotized, boxed in by all these belief systems. We're not taught a mentality of ascending perspective versus perception. Maybe that's a great way to put this. So it made it interesting to me because I think most Americans would be like, yeah, I should really learn another language at this point. A lot of people would be like, yeah, I should, or maybe a lot of them actually even do. But I don't think that they can. Once they do, they almost get a little bit egotistical about it, and they start to use it like you were saying. If you go over Japan, a lot of the girls they had a word for you. They call you a playa if you spoke Japanese, anything.
Yeah, gaijin.
Gaijin.
But they don't say they say gaijin man.
Gaijin
like
man.
Kawaii gaijin man. They say gaijin. Playboy. Just like if you're in a bar in America and girls are talking, and a guy walks in and he looks too fucking he's fucking that guy's fucking. He just buys all the women in America, or you got that other person comes in and is like, oh fuck, he's just
interesting.
So, but back to the.
But not only that,
you
can make yourself a target for people who would want to make your life there not as pleasant as it could be. You want to steal from you, rip you off on a fucking hotel deal or something. Just people do not view Americans in the way that we think they do. In some places, are very friendly towards us, but just we're on subject here. So then I ask, if there was another language, if you were as an American to learn another language, what situations would you have a good excuse to be fluent in? Mm-hmm. Other than, obviously a teacher where it's like, okay, I'm going to teach English to
and you can
Spanish
prove
students,
that.
Right.
They're like, he's the teacher. Now that's
right. That's
That's okay.
Standard.
They're not a threat. They're not any part. They can't get. They're just the.
Yeah.
They know.
What reason would I have
Yeah.
to visit Mexico or visit Japan and really be able to speak any bit of the language, anything more than 10 to 50 words?
Yeah.
You know, just basics to what time is it? Where's the bus station? Like, just wanted to throw that out there. But then, as a little bit even more interesting, then I also asked Kev, so our education system, all this learning a foreign language shit, it should just be purely elective. If you ever want to do it, then you can go and do it. But like we said, until internationally we can transcend to a point of beyond perspective versus perception where you're not going to make a target out of yourself,
Yeah.
or then we can educate you to speak a language where it's like, hey, you need to, like, you know, speak broken German if you're going to go over to German Fest and Oktoberfest and travel, because if you speak fluently you might get snatched up and
Oktoberfest, you could get away with it.
Yeah, sorry, that's a bad
Oktoberfest.
example.
Everybody's. I remember sitting on a table with people from 6 different continents, all around us. Like, we were all from a different. And I was like, at the time, I was in Germany. So I'm like, yeah, I'm here in Europe, traveling around, you know, being a tour, you know, you can backpack your way through fucking 4 years and have a story for that. That is completely, but you're never going to master the meaning, like your excuses, and like I visit and like I know fluent, and they're gonna. But Europe's a starting ground for
yeah. So then I asked him, well, how about in the school, should they be teaching a programming language? And his response to that was different. His response to that was, yeah, absolutely they should be. And I actually would agree on that for some reasons. I don't know if maybe we should talk about those, but one I would like to see, I think would help, is if people understood the nature of programming, they would understand the nature of, you know, when you even talk about AI, what is it? Like, a lot of people, they just don't understand, you know, when they call to deal with a bank or interface with something, they call for customer support, they just don't understand. And if they knew how programming worked, I think it would help their brain be able to understand to get out of the belief mentality trap, where that's really like what we're lulled to sleep with, and then this is what they install as sort of an operating system. It's a belief mentality that's belief based, because when you talk to people, it's like you can try to relay, you can try to explain everything, and it's like, but in your head, like, but oh no, they just want something you believe, and they can't get out of that. So thought that was all interesting, very relevant to how to train our brain out of the AI system that we've literally been lulled to sleep with. And it's like, now that you know about it, now that it's like, yeah, it makes you very fatigued, and even just thinking about it makes you fatigued, where it's like, yeah, man, God, can I just fucking sleep for like 2 weeks and just where you all just fuck off for the next 25 years and go fuck yourselves. Mm-hmm. I'm tired of hearing about all the stupid shit on repeat. Like, you can all relate. So to help do that, I thought we would just use an example, couple examples, couple stories here, maybe to kind of round this out a bit. Talk a little bit about my experiences, and then talk about your experiences as well, on just training your brain to do something that you haven't done before. For me, since we were talking about this belief system thing, I'll tell you my experience before I let Kev get into some of his NSA exercise experiences, where I have at least a couple questions for him. So sit tight just a moment.
They've already been scanned through the system, so they're valid questions you can ask. I just can't. I got confirm
Can't
or deny.
confirm or deny.
I can't confirm or deny
Yeah,
at the
those are
point
the
I'm
words.
like, okay, now I have to just like confirm or deny and next question. But I will.
So when I won't run you through, like, I wrote a book about my spiritual experience in detail, and part of this, one of the biggest things was like I was saying earlier, recognizing that the belief mentality was like this attachment of ego, and to really like sink into being able to communicate with the universe, it was like you had to be in a selfless state of mind to really be able to have these experiences, pure of intention and just egolessness, selflessness type of thing, goodness. How I trained my brain out of that was anytime I was like I would find myself saying the word I believe or thinking the word I believe, I would change it. I would go back and edit it. I would be like, no, instead of I believe that, I said, no, that seems to be a good idea. That idea sounds good right now. It seems to fit. Let me run it with some other, let me work it with some other stuff. Let me test the theory a bit. Let me put it in that database. I'm going to sit it there and see how well it does over time.
Well,
Instead of being like, I believe it, now it's just, hey, I'm going to become this little spot, right? Or just, instead of really getting into it, sorry to be dramatic there, but like, I'm trying to just demonstrate a spectrum of where it's like, I'm not into that belief system now just because it's like, okay, there's something there's an idea here, there's information that seems to be true.
mm-hmm.
It seems to be checking out for now, and it's one of these things where it's like, it's very interesting because if true, then filtering all this other information with this information would paint a little bit different picture than the one that I'm being painted on the news type of thing. Just a soft example there, trying to just... So what I did was every time my brain was doing that, like trying to attach something and just convert something to a belief where I just, oh yeah, that's true, so then this, and like, when you're trying to figure out and weigh information, like, if you're in the state of mind where you erased everything that you had ever known to be true, and you're like, let's do a reset, let's restart, and let's see what I can re-put together here when I go through things again, right, later in life. Let's just test theory, right? That's what I did. And in doing that, one thing, again, not to reiterate, but one thing I found was the belief system mentality is being used against us because it's like installing an operating system on your mind where it is confining your thought and emotional experience in a box. And it's also making you a target and also karmically involving you in a perceptual war that is carried out through perception and perspective, through trickery of perception. So that's why it's actually very important. It is one of the most important things you can do is free yourself from this mentality to ascend to a level where you are not being just divisive in just the very core values that you're trying to install for yourself. Just because if you're just trying to be a good person and have good values towards other people, you do not need to say the words, I believe this or that. You just need to be a good person and do good things. That's it. You just think, right thought, right action. And attaching yourselves to belief systems is wrong thought, wrong action. So, I trained my brain out of it. I know it seems a little bit odd at first, like it doesn't make sense, but it really does. And when I can meet somebody like Kev, who maybe hadn't, thought of it necessarily in that before or already had, but if I can explain those things to him and he can come back to me and not like, nah, dude, that's just fucked. Like, like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, I get what you're saying. It makes sense. I can relate to exactly what you're saying because I've seen it in my personal experiences traveling the world after being trained by the NSA, which is a very it's a very respectable training because I see the product and I get to interact with the product of that training, and it's a very sharp tool for me, and it's actually proven to be a point of synchronicity that we've actually demonstrated through our sportscast and fucking just big brain university lessons. Like, so there's something there that meshes with everything that I've trained and the spiritual experiences that I've had that he also shares and was able to extract from his training as well. So now we're gonna talk to Kev here and hear about two interesting things I have for him, questions for him for y'all to listen to. The NSA does they train two things you told me that about. One was an exercise, one was just a training. So the first one I wanted to talk about was how to fall asleep in, let's say, 2 minutes. When I asked him about that, I was like, somebody might hear that and they might think, oh, there's some hocus pocus magic that the NSA teaches you where Kev can go bippity boppity boo and he's just out like a light. So I was like, no. When I thought about it, I was like, that probably can't be it. Now, how would they actually go about teaching you something like this? And the idea that I presented to him, I was like, could it be something, do they do something like, like a mandala or a little bracelet where it has beads on it, or like just a counting practice and combined with your breath where you just, start at 99, count backwards until you either fall asleep or lose count and your thoughts drift off and then you remember you're supposed to be counting, and if you're not asleep, fucking start over and just go until you fall asleep. And then what I told a little bit more on that, because I have experience with retraining my thoughts, I asked him, is it kind of like that where you're just like over time you're doing little techniques and tricks, like a little procedure every day to help you kind of fall asleep over and over time after, like, your brain just knows, like, okay, well, if I'm starting to count to 20 in this way and I'm laying down like this and my breathing's like this, my brain knows that this is what I'm doing, so it's gonna trigger myself to fall into sleep. So let's hear about that one first, and then we'll go into an even more interesting one.
I'm going to tell you what you can find on the internet.
I'm going to go to the bathroom,
okay,
but I'm going to let him speak on that one.
I'm going to explain what you can Google and find on the internet, and it's becoming more taught when in police officers, I believe, are using this training. There's other companies that are also using this type of training, and it comes down to relaxing your thought process before. Because if you're in a high ops temp job, like let's say you're in the Marines, and you have to go around and have a high ops temp, well, they got to condition you like, here, you got to calm your brain down and fall asleep, because sleep is very important for everybody to live and function. So there's really no like magic pill per se, but we're talking from no medication for your sleep to actually just naturally fall asleep in 2 minutes. You can't just like start it and then here I am, I did it 2 minutes. You're gonna have to really focus on the cognitive thought process that goes behind why people struggle to fall asleep without using some sort of chemicals. Now, alcohol could be one of those that people use to fall asleep. you're not really going to know if you fell asleep in 2 minutes or if it's been 2 hours or if you got a good enough sleep. But the baseline to start out would be to go, and you can use this cognitive behavior is the one answer that I was going to tell you. You go through cognitive behavior training to get. So here's the thing: if you're in Afghanistan and bombs are going off, you're on a 12-hour shift. You're in a high threat area, and you got 12 hours or 14 hours of work. Mm-hmm. But you have to sleep through the noise and chaos to function. Even if you sleep in. Here's the thing: in a high tense environment, when I'm talking, I always use like the Marines and the military. Just that not when they're not in the. It's always high ops tense, high ops tempo. In all those fields, everything that you can think of that is protecting out there, you gotta figure out how to, and it takes one day, then you can recondition, because you can't just be like, I'm in a new area, but you are taught how to it's like shut your brain off.
Yeah, like detach.
Yep. How do you think medics that are ER and see like a leg broken in 4 spots, and we pieced it, we tied it back together with ice bags, and we saved the leg? Well, you gotta go home and sleep, honey. Well, that's when medication becomes almost where you just take medicine to block out. There's medicine like that, but to naturally do it, it takes a lot of intense. And you got to be monitored about it, because how do you know 2 minutes is 2 minutes when you fall asleep? You can get an Oura Ring now, and you can do this. That's why I'm saying with technology today, you can make it happen. It's just I did it when it was more like experimentation on sleep. They had the government, like the military, they would like you. Why do you think they test the high ops Navy SEALs? Those guys, they get X amount of hours in 2 weeks. Like they might get a full 2 nights rest, but like in their first 6 days, they're up for 5 of them. Like, oof. But then they get in condition to training to like sleep. It's like natural. But then you go from. Now, when you go away from that environment and somebody in that goes on vacation to enjoy their time, they can't fall asleep because they're like, oh, I don't have the stress. They actually, because they're thinking more about all the shit that they're used to. Yeah. I used to live on over at Nellis in Nevada. I used to live out in that area for a while, and all you would hear is fighter jets all day long. It was just like the windows couldn't even be open because all you would hear is fighter jets. So people would have to like block out their, but they got used to it eventually. That's normal. But people that would hear that, it's like, oh my God, are we going, like, you just get used to it. So if you use it for a personal way to fall asleep, you have to have a reason why. You have to have some sort of like, how do I be like a dog? Hey, go lay on the floor, and the dog just falls asleep, whether he's actually asleep or he just is asleep.
That's a good point. You have to have a reason
we
why.
Use intrusive thoughts that when it comes to things, there's a lot of intrusive thoughts could be anywhere from our public, private, and secret life, which I've said that's our 3 tiers of our life. But everybody visits that secret life every day, hours at a time. Sometimes it doesn't, but when it happens, it's one of those that like intrusively, just like the high ops temple, like, oh shit, everything's gonna go wrong. Oh my God, I regret, like all these things. And for somebody just to be like, hey, I hate my boss and I hate my job. I can't stop thinking about the reports tomorrow. I can't stop thinking. But you have control in that. It's different. So I was just trained in a high ops temp to how to manage like those situations. Because I'm telling you, traveling 76 different countries, a lot of it was for vacation. So let's just put that out there, because I'm saying that when I mean a vacation, I was experiencing the cultures, and some of those vacations were 2 weeks to who knows how long. But I spent some good time around the world, and I do know that okay. Here's what I want to like. Listen. Here's how it works. Think about this one. You're getting on an airplane, and the plane's delayed 30 minutes.
Okay.
even the high ops alert tempo people, the nurse that just got done working, chaos, and she should be alert and away because she has to get to her next place to start working again, and she's only on this flight for like, I don't know, whatever. People just fall asleep whether they want to or not on an airplane for some reason. Just think about that atmosphere. You're just on this plane, everybody's relaxed, and you have to, even if you have screaming kids and you're like, fuck those kids, your brain will shut down and you'll just wake up, whether it's 15 seconds later, you're like, oh, or holy shit, like I had my seatbelt on and they didn't wake me, and oh my God, we're landing, and you're like, I just fucking, but that's something that you would learn if you went on a plane every day, and that's why stewardess and all that, like pilots, they have to like get trained to like not fall asleep, because that condition is something with that. And so that's what as far as the magic and all that, it's
Doesn't really work that way, does it?
no,
Yeah.
like you can't just, there's no, but I was trained to use tools that most people would have to think through, and it would take them a week to figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to put
Right.
and just zap the brain would have been a good one. Just zap everybody, reset them. And
So, speaking of something that might take a week or longer to figure out, we talked about one of the first exercises that the NSA had you do was, because I think this story really ties well to everything we've talked about, and I think that if people take this story and then apply everything we've already said, where now apply this upcoming situation to international. Okay, so I'm not trying to stall, but trying to think if there anything else that I wanted to add right before we get into this, because I think that this will set us up to let everybody go. Yeah, well, let's just let it roll. The coffee story.
yes. So
The coffee exercise.
the free cup of coffee. Free cup of coffee. Now I'm gonna tell you how I learned about this, even though I didn't know about it, and then I had to do it. So, all the languages that we were talking about, but I was learning Japanese at U of A for a semester. So I wanted to learn basic Japanese because what I wanted to do was go on spring break over to Japan and visit. So I had some Japanese, like just a tour. But then I got intercepted from somebody that used the same technique. And the person was a recruiter. And he intercepted me at a coffee shop. And he was just in line, and he just brought up a conversation. And it made me feel comfortable. And he's like, oh, by the way, have you ever thought about traveling the world? And I'm like, actually, I have. I just was studying for Japanese, and I'm getting ready to plan spring break. I'll go over to, and he's like, would you like to get your college paid for? I'm like, sure. And then I didn't buy him a cup of coffee, but that would have been a situation, because he used what was called manipulative tactic. He doesn't give a fuck about me. He wants me to sign up and get the hell his quota. But I bought into it. I signed up, and then instead of going to Japan, I was in basic training in fucking Lackland and dealing with that pony show and that barnyard mind gymnastics trickery that they do in those basic trainings. So what happened was, fast forward, and companies like Multi-Level Marketing use this for meeting customers. Recruiters, like I was intercepted, use it to recruit people. They have to go through 10 to 20 different people to get a yes, right? So this is the same concept. It's just a different way that I had learned it. So in sales, car salesmen usually have like a thing on, and people are like, hey, I'm looking for a car, they give them a car. But those guys, that's natural. They're out there doing that, and people know who they are, and people are like, cool. But this is the experiment that I ultimately had to do forward fast later on when I had to learn this. And it's called a free cup of coffee exercise. And you have to go get a free cup of coffee. And the rules are, You can't ask for a cup of coffee. You can't trade for a cup of coffee. You have to plant an idea or priming an idea that they will want to buy you a cup of coffee. This is what we like to call is just-in-time learning. It's experimental training and experimental learning. It's taught a concept, and what this concept is taught academically in a slideshow in a classroom with a bunch of other people that are there to practice this concept in a scenario. So let's say you have 50 people in a group and you all have to pair up and you have to run this scenario to get whatever. And this is just in the classroom setting. And so there's actors in the role play, but you're taught by high-level elite people that know the psychology of sales, manipulating, coercing, what to say, what not to say. So those types of concepts can be used in real world about sales. You could really gain information if you just apply this, and it's taught with all that. So you got all the skills and all the information to go, hey, here's a bunch of coffee shops. Go and get a free cup of coffee without asking and without trading. And I'm like, that's fucking easy. Like, who can't do that? Huh. Have you ever been in, how would you get, and you can't beg or ask. So you just have to naturally go in a coffee shop, survey the place, and be like, there's nobody in line.
Yeah.
I gotta sit down.
Right.
You're licking, but then you have to remember
long?
how you did this. You have to remember how it starts. So then the first time you have to be like, you have to present yourself to someone and get some sort of like comfort, some sort of trust, some sort of relatable, some sort of relation.
Yeah, interaction. With
Them,
where they process everything and they're like, hey,
it's called the
taught
and create. Reciprocity, interest, value equals more opportunity. So here's how it went. And I went. They have a map. They said you can go any one of these coffee shops within this radius because there's so many that you're not going to have you're going to be in busy areas that'll have a bunch of people. So I went into one and I'm like, man, I was just like getting up to line, and then I was like, I didn't know what I wanted. And I was like, man, this is so fucking difficult. I'm like, I thought this would be, and I'm thinking I can't use any sort of like business card. I can't use some sort of like, when I was recruited, it was a guy in a uniform and I'm like, man, so I had to go in blind. So I went in and I had two failures. I was trying too hard. Third time it was somebody up in line and I said, hey, what are you getting? And he goes, I don't know. And I'm like, I heard the mocha ice is really good. And he's like, really? And I'm like, that's what I say. He's like, I'm going to get one of those. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I'm going to get my free cup of coffee. Please say, can I get you on the house? Can you, or not on the house. Please, this is my third try. I'm like, it's fucking 9:30 in the morning. I got 6 total hours to get this shit done. This is right now. If it doesn't happen now, I'm fucking walking out and I'm done. So we built, and it was 1 minute from end of the line up. We get up there,
right.
And he paid cash and at $10 and the drink, whatever. So I'm like, and he's like, have a nice day. And I'm like, God damn it. But I had if I bought a cup of coffee, I had to sit there and drink it. But I couldn't go and be like, can I get a refill? You had to use it as leverage as far as. So I had to do this process. So I bought a cup of coffee, drank it, went to another coffee shop. Walked in there. This is and I'm like, fuck it. I went. There was nobody in there, and you can get the barista to buy you a drink, but how much do you interact with the barista to get you get 13 seconds? Is that barista really going to be like, hey, coffee's on the house? Oh, it's customer relation.
It'd be a challenge.
It is, but it's not one of those that you. This thing is you have to pass. In order to pass, you have to not go around bullshitting, and you have to go with how you did it, without manipulating the fact of hey, if you give me a coffee, I'll give you a ride down where you need to go. You can't use leverage. So I was in this situation where 5 times, the 6th time fail. it's fucking 11:45. Seventh time I couldn't get a cut. And the eighth time I finally walked into place, and there was this old guy in line, and there was this old lady in line, and the old lady was hollering about something about her grandkids, and nobody wanted to listen to her shit. And this guy was a farmer, and he was talking about farming, and he didn't want to listen to her shit. So I'm talking to this farmer, and I'm like, yeah, man, this and that, and I was just breaking the ice, and I'm like, man, this fucking farmer, there's no way I'm getting this coffee. There's just no fucking way. So he got up there, and she goes, son, you'd be great for my granddaughter. And I'm like, excuse me? I'm like, this has got to be the fucking freak up. Please be her, please be her. And sure as shit, nobody want to listen to her, but I just started asking questions. I said, oh, so how do your grandkids think about you moving into this area? Do you miss them? And then she'd go on like, oh, I see them too much, and they do too much for her. And I'm like, oh, how is that? And she, like, how do you be a successful grandmother? And she went on about how, nobody would listen to her. And I finally just listened to her. And and we got up there, and she goes, are you going to sit here for a minute? And I said, yeah, sure, a minute. And she goes, I'll get you a cup of coffee. And I said, oh, thank you very much. And the whole time, I'm just like, how do I fucking get out of here and get back and pass this thing? Here's my free cup of coffee. I pass. And the problem is, I had to sit there for like, it was like 30 minutes to be like asking her, and she wouldn't stop talking about it. So the thing is, that is called taught on concept, just in time learning as far as that. But that there's no manipulation with that. But once I got the free cup, once I got the coffee, I left, and I and it worked. So I figured it took all those tries. And then everybody else had a different plan, like how they did it. And it was, some people could get on the first try, which is usually they have a talent that's really superior. And they're like, oh shit, go get 6 cup of coffees from 6 different shops in 25 minutes, and bam, they can have it done. Like, whoa, what technique do they use? Well, I didn't think of that one. And that's something that I used, probably nobody thought. And then you parallel together, and that's how you create the connection. Because intellectually it creates value that the concept of failure also plays into that, because it sounds so easy and it's not.
Yeah.
So after the 8th try, I finally got it, left, passed, and there was people that had quit. They're like, I'm fucking not, I'm done. Because what happens is if you can't successfully, and you try, and you explain like, here's what I've done. What have you like not visited other, like what did you use your time in that 6 hours? And if you don't have like this fucking like 10:01 fucking walked in, sat down,
you don't have bad
stood
luck.
up, you have to have all this, like, because then they'll teach you like, okay, well, here's what because these are elite people.
They'll work with
you,
it.
like they're like they're like the ones that want you to fail, so when you come back you're teachable and trainable. They don't want you, Mr. Smarty, getting it right on the first try, without any explanation. That's like bullshit. Like, that's not going to pass here. So when you show, but you have documentation, because you could just been like, I failed 6 times and I finally got one. Well, no, you're fucked, because you have, it's deep. It's like one of those experiments where you just have to like, what are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? What did you say? What did you say? And I realized the first 5 times I was being more like, here's all about me to this person in line, versus, man, if I just ask him questions, maybe he's going to sit here and we could talk about car repairs. And then I didn't use so I had to be switching the more questions you ask, the more they open up, the more connection, more trust. And so just by being nice and all that, it worked out. But the other technique is manipulation, where you physically go and you're just trying to get a customer or a client. But it's a different way, because this is a natural. You can, and then if I go, now here's another example. If I go into Tokyo, Japan at a Starbucks, can I get them to buy me a cup of coffee? No. But can I sure as shit find somebody to sit with me in every Starbucks in Japan? Yes, and here's how that works. Girls are in line. I'm the white guy. I fit in Japan. I walk into a Starbucks in Japan. And I'm just a tourist. but let's say I'm living over there, and I walk in, I could just get up to her online, and most Americans will speak English, and the Starbucks lady will know what English is because they know English over there. But if I went up there and the girl's in line, and she's waiting behind me, and I said, "Sumimasen," she would go, "Hi. 私はカモマキアトをカフェラテお願いします。カフェラテ。ありがとう。And then, sit? Hi. I sit with you. And they sit down, and that's like, and that's how that. But if I walk in and said, what up? And I'm like, "Watashi wa cardamom macchiato," and I use more other words, "Domonagashi gato gozaimasu," and all these other like words, she would be like, "Man, you know too much of Japanese already. I don't want anything to do with them." But this is taught for anybody can use it. It's like going to find a chick in a bar. You got to sort through to get a number. That was another one. Go get 3 numbers from girls in a bar without just getting there, without trading drinks, getting there and walking out and making a date the next day. You know how tough that is, bro? Yeah. I'm telling you right now, that's another one you have to do. You have to go into a bar, sober as shit, get a girl's number, and have lunch the next day. And it never happened. You can't. You know how long it takes in a bar to get a chick's number? You have to you can't buy her drinks.
Actually,
you can't use any leverage. You walk in there with no money. You walk in with an ID and you walk out with 3 numbers.
So when I was because
and you have 1 minimum.
Yo, when we had this conversation originally, I'm thinking to myself like, how would I do that? So I've been weighing it on my mind the last couple days or whatever here, and one of the thoughts I had was like, man, this would be so much easier if it was just like a drink or a number in a bar, and that's all I had to get. Like I was
number in a bar is actually it's easier to get a cup of coffee than in time. In the time frame, it's easier to get a cup because I'm not getting a number at Starbucks. You're either buying or getting a drink, and you're making a report. Can I get your number? I gotta go. You ain't getting. You're fucked.
I feel like from experience, I wouldn't have any problems with that one. With the get a number in a bar, pretty sure I could do that one. The part about like have dinner or have lunch the next day, that one people are just so flaky. But no, I'm pretty sure that I could do the bar thing. But the coffee shop one,
told you people quit.
I guess
bro.
I've mentioned on this channel before, and I guess but I feel like I can. It seems like I can get a number almost everywhere I go, whether it's a gas station. It's just if there's any sort of opportunity to actually interact with them, there's a pretty good opportunity that I actually could get it.
Well,
but
I mean,
anyway,
even
that's not here. But a cup of coffee, I feel like. So I wanted to add on to this. That was pre-COVID for one, and it was pre-technology where everybody's got a damn phone on them at all times type of thing.
Yeah.
So the challenge of the coffee cup exercise, I would say, has certainly gone up, where we now live in this society, and because I want to speak to how, again, to the threat of AI and how just in the parameters of this exercise, AI is the biggest factor change. And I would be willing to bet that the intel and the statistics and the documentation that we received from people going out and doing this experiment, now that when people have cell phones, where it's like, have people in line they're wearing earbuds. Yeah. So it's like you have to be sort of rude to talk to them because it's like, hello, I'm wearing earbuds in public. I don't want you to talk to me. It's like now we have all these tools and visual cues where it's like if you don't want someone to talk to you, you just like stare at your phone. Where it's like they didn't used to actually have that. Listen to the pounding now. Like we could hear the pounding on the fence building, the division. coming through then audibly again when we're talking about the kind of like a lot of meat of this lesson here is really like look at even something like a coffee exercise to for the NSA, like how much it's changed in such a short amount of time. Where it's like
how many Instagram accounts can you get in three fucking minutes at Starbucks?
Yeah.
Fucking, I'd get 10.
how many can you get at the gym?
Fuck.
You know?
But the thing is, now it could be without technology. It could be even more psychological because the thing is the whole purpose of that exercise, if people can use it, the whole purpose of the exercise is antisocial people that have been put in behavior of being shy and not wanting to talk to, and being like, there's something fucked up with people that when they get opened up and know that, holy shit, I can do it, they just shift their way from like, oh my God, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to, you know, I know the right answer, but people are going to be like, fuck, to like, hey, here's how you communicate human and apply it to human around the world using no language to this.
Multiple
Multiple
languages.
to being able without faulting. Because that exercise in sales and all those other types of that teach that type of concept, if you can't pass that test, you are not going to make it and farther beyond that. Just like the Navy SEALs, for example. They go through rigorous, like they need to weed out, let's say 100 guys are there. They need to weed out 40 in the first fucking hour or whatever. And it wouldn't take an hour. I'm telling you, like within 24 hours, and you know what? And if they haven't weeded anybody, they push harder. And then they ease back off. So you look at how you got to eliminate, and this is an example where you take 50 people and you program them to like the manipulation versus the just-in-time learning, because you can apply that around. I can apply that coffee technique around the world, anywhere.
Yeah.
Business, I can.
You know how you do it, Kev? You get a haircut and you look like you are active military and you will, or a veteran, and you will have the most success in someone buying you a cup of coffee.
In America,
Yeah.
I could walk into. I
Same
could
would go for beer,
easy.
too, in
Just
a
by
bar.
appearance, you can get it. Now, back in 9/11 days, remember I got intercepted.
Even if you're sitting alone and don't talk to anybody,
Yeah,
somebody
I-
will probably
well,
buy you a beer.
this-
They'll be like,
yeah.
that guy's tab's on me.
I remember specifically because remember, 97, 98, 99, 2000. I did that 4 years, so I got all my college paid for. So I'm like 4 years and go was my concept, just like 2.0 and go and move on to other things. And I'm like, at least I have at least I have some experience and I got a clearance and I can like go out and do something. And after 9/11, they fucking stop loss, and I was in for another like 2 years, and then I became intercepted, and they're like, hey, opportunities, and I said, all right, I'll see what's out there or see what's going on, and then I was like, it was a fight between he belongs to or he belongs to training, and the other's like he belongs in the Air Force, and like all this like fighting. So no, I didn't really know what I was doing. They're like, hey, just go, and then I went through they called. They said, hey, and I'm like, all right. I said, what is it? And they're like, we have to interview. And I said, okay. And I said, I want to ask you more questions. Just tell me what boxes I need to check. And they're like, I like your attitude. And bam. So, but then I remember from like 2002, 2003, it was like, shit. Yeah, man, people that would be at a restaurant would get like free, that would have like military, like, you know, man, you get drinks at the bar.
Yeah.
If you're at the airport, hey, come in front of the line. You know, it was like America. And people wanted to join just to join. They're like, I don't need no training. Give me a gun. I'm fucking going over and fight. And they had a surge, a big wave of people just wanted to fight. And then it all kind of dissipated, and then tech era, and here we are. And it's been an interesting ride, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But if 9/11 would never happen, then shit, who knows what the hell where I'd be. Because I was like, I was going to go fucking work at a Fortune 500 company, do statistics and analysis for stocks, or do in the medical field. Biostatistics analysis, I would have probably been at the White House speaking up there with Dr. Needle and telling him, oh, here's the biostatistics medical expert, me. And I'm up there speaking on the COVID. Imagine that, because that's all the biostatistics of medical would have been doing that algorithm of, hey, how many people are dying of COVID? Fuck it. We got to make a virus. We got to cancel them. We got to create a liquid. Here's the statistics now. So instead, I went around the world. I got to see the globe itself.
Yes, very well.
From a perspective of a flat Earth view.
Very well put. Very well put.
Yes, sir.
So, to wrap things up here, that's everything I wanted to touch on. I didn't want to get too deep into, well, this part of AI takes over our life, and this part of and this part, because I just feel that gets a little repetitive, and I'm not really looking for the most clever way to point out how AI is taking over our lives. I think it's just quite obvious that if you have an alarm clock assault and we have the hypnotic apparatus on top of that, I think that idea enough is simple and people can understand it and everybody can relate to it to a point where we don't need to sit here and go down every little avenue to be like, gosh, look at the way the cell phone is changing and dictating our behavior patterns. It's like, no, we just wanted to make you aware of that idea in a way that you can hone in and see the difference in what it would look like if it wasn't there versus how it is there, and just so you all can self-reflect and see in others and in society, when you zoom out or zoom in, the patterns that we're talking to, the patterns of behavior, the same behavior in different belief systems, like seeing through the illusion of the difference, that when there really is none other than some words, but the same structure is there, the same premise, the same accept AI, alarm clock assault type of thing. We don't need to rehash every little detail, but I think we talked about kind of everything that seems pertinent for now, at least, that we wanted to introduce. Lesson 6. We're not super deep diving into anything yet, but still able to provide a unique perspective for everybody to relate their own experiences to, in hopes that, again, we can unite what parts of the world we can in the ways that we can. And I don't think that, I'm not exactly optimistic that we're going to get past everybody's beliefs to a point where everybody's like, nah, I get it. I'm bucking the whole belief system. I'm going to just turn to a point of researching religions and, see where I end up from there. Like what I actually learn when I really go through all of the world's religions and all of the text available, whether it's the official narratives or not, like just, that type of thoughts, mentality where it's like, there's no way I would even think of saying that one is better than the other before I have read every little bit of information that exists, like how am I going to make the best decision if I don't have all of the information type of thing. Perspective versus perception again. So
you guys look at the UAE. We were talking about, different things that around the world, human trafficking, for example, that's 70% of the gross money that it's Americans will, I don't know how to, they won't accept the fact, and that's where, okay, so UAE, over there, you get a speeding ticket, and it says, oh, it'll ding on your phone and say, $85 has been deducted or added to your credit card.
Yeah.
You have 2 points added to your driving record. Have a nice day. And then you just travel on. Now, that's the digital surveillance of like how everything is. There's no crime. There's technology's advancing, but then you go into other countries that are similar, but it's like it's a different. Like, what should we have that in America? But the human trafficking, for example, is you go to Cambodia, Thailand, these other countries. As if you go there and visit, you will see some shit that you're like, you'll turn your head and be like, thank God I don't live here. Thank God this is accepted over here, not in my country. That's how that works. And the other thing is, like, it's not like the United States can just walk into these countries and start shutting shit down, because you know how tough to get in like the countries to. Now, example I said was, well, let's say somebody was over there visiting and they were kidnapped and they were put into human trafficking ring. Now, is there a way to go in there and try to get them out? Yeah, but are you going to be able to have America come shut down the whole operation when that's what works for them? It's like Europe, red light district. It's all this the sexual in America that we look at that's so accepted. It's almost forced upon us in America, but it's more like, see, we look at it, you know, a different.
Yeah, we look at it through a different lens.
But
right.
When you were talking earlier about how, I mean, when I've said I've seen the world, I mean, I've seen. There's not one place that I've been to, for all of it put together, that I would want to actually go back and live, unless it was Dubai. Now, Europe, I would go, but I'd expand out through Europe, and I'd figure out a place. I might settle down in a fucking one of the 28 countries every 30 days, get my passport stamped, and then might even just stay over there, because I'm going to tell you that whole, when you were talking earlier about the China, they're going to, I'm telling you, 25 years, I told my nephews, I said, when you have grandkids, there will be Chinese genes in your, because the next 2 tiers, there will be, and now they're going to create all, and it's going to move from the West Coast, and they're going to, you know, East Coast is, but the West Coast is the, and then you said about that's where we go. I'm going fucking far east as I can. It ain't going to be Russia, bitches.
So, since you mentioned Dubai, let's end with bringing this last bit to the table here. Let's leave everybody with this thought on their plate. Because we mentioned earlier, for this reason, is America setting themselves up to be unskilled workers who cannot leave? And why would we want to leave? Okay, would it just be because of a terrorist attack? What's one thing that we mentioned earlier? Now, how about we add in the AI thing, and America becomes this place where you're basically, you can barely get, cash is kind of not a thing anymore. But maybe not so much cash is not a thing, but it's like everything that you do is basically like, you get an Uber, you got to have a fingerprint. Like, you do check into your bank account, has to be a fingerprint. Like, using a hotel fingerprint or retinal scan. Like, imagine just the security apparatus being amped up in a way where it's like the biometrics and the biometric verification basically makes it so, like, you are locked down to a point like it is in Dubai. And most people don't understand what it's like in Dubai, where it's like everything's under surveillance. You can't fuck around. You can't do anything. Rich motherfuckers live there because they're all in this club, and they want to live a certain way, so they have everything under surveillance.
Nobody wants to attack Dubai. Nobody wants to fuck with nobody.
Right?
That's the one country that is like Antarctica.
So,
you leave it the fuck alone, and even the I see what I'm saying. Now there's probably a whole nother movement of shit. But America,
under the same type of surveillance, but it's the land that everybody
it's China,
now
but
wants
China
to
blocks
fucking
all
leave.
of that shit. You cannot,
Right?
and even if you go to China and walk into their airport and connect to their Wi-Fi, you're first of all, your shit is they got it, and then the second is you try to access YouTube to talk to family back home, fuck off. Or there's probably some sort of like a money option where you pay for a service to get that, but you're only using 2 sites that are approved by the Chinese government. And I'm telling you, YouTube ain't one of them, motherfuckers. You ain't finding YouTube in China. You'd have to go to Macau. That's where we're talking about the restrictions. But China, fuck man, fuck that.
And
I'll be
China
gone.
seems to be the one that has the biggest, interest and value in taking over America or having invested interest in America. Like we don't really want to try to predict how that future is going to look.
25 years, we will have some sort of West America Republic of China.
There's already China University in Bellevue, Washington. Where it's right next to Redmond, Washington, where the Microsoft headquarters is. You guys, it's like China University is right there, like basically.
But on the West Coast is all the Chinese linguist institutions where they teach languages.
A lot of Chinese landowners out there too, so it's like they're kind of already saying like, hey, we already kind of own.
And there's a lot of Chinatowns throughout the West Coast that are obviously.
Don't want to get too far on that,
you know what they probably are their own little cells of like intelligence information for their own.
They do, yeah, for sure.
They're just they're business people, and they're it's the ones that are going from the Europe to this side are more like I think they just have worse intents. I think China's just. Semiconductors out of Taiwan is a big thing, and it's almost like, well, if China invaded Taiwan, we don't need their semiconductors because we do our own thing here if we need them, and we have them. We just whatever. But then if a naval ship comes in and China bombs the U.S. naval ship that just happens to be in the area, does that mean U.S. goes to war against China, or we're not even supposed to be in that conflict if it happens? Just because if China takes over Taiwan, then they're going to migrate all the way. I mean, the U.S. is, I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm telling you right now, in the last 5 years, it's really been a lot of China talk.
Yeah.
Whether it's Republic or whether it's
when it comes down to resources, too, it's like China seems to have all the mines that have the rare earth minerals for the neodymium magnets, or neodymium, however you say that. Where it's like those are the magnets that create the free energy. It's like.
But then you got to look at America is the world superpower, global index superpower. Think about this.
Yeah. So who
China is the global power of information superiority based off of our communications that are built over there. Now, it comes down to at what time is it a threat? At what time do they just use leverage and say, we're going to take out X amount and then we're just going to start coming into America. We're going to infiltrate America and bring them up through Mexico.
Yeah, and we're going to install this surveillance system.
And then we're going to put all these
social credit system.
Like you said, go 10 years down the road, all of a sudden all the work stuff has kind of added itself up, and now they figured out how there's no more jobs available for like people that have been 10 years and haven't really moved.
Yeah, right.
So then it's like, okay, where do you go? Well, if you have never been to Europe or expanded or seen the world, good luck just saying I'm going to leave and go to a country, because it's really not that easy. Because at that time, you're going to have a permission to fly out of the United States.
Yeah.
Well, you already have to do. You're going to have permission to travel into certain states.
And are they even going to let you leave the United States if you're not able to line up something in another
China
country?
will not let them leave if they don't have a reason, or if they don't have. In China, they do a report card also, meaning they catch you on the camera smoking in a non-smoking area. There's Chinese laws, bro. You get caught smoking and no smoking, fucking camera, and it sends you a bill to, and now not a bill, like a warning check, and it's like from the Chinese Republic. You have 1 point added to your yearly report card. Now you get 5 infractions. You're not moving on a territory in China. You're not getting another job. You're not asking for funding. You're not asking for anything from the government. You got to rebuild yourself.
Right.
America, Singapore's no different, man. Singapore's was like that in 2000 and whatever the year it was. It was, but now they were so tech advanced there, bro. They had so much digital shit over there. Those type of years, that was like the digital cameras over there were so like fucking advanced, and you couldn't find that shit in America. I saw those. There was just so much electronics, and my first digital camera was just the most amazing thing in the world.
Yeah, you're gonna have to have a COVID vaccination certificate, digital certificate, before you can attend online class in the future. Like, that's how bad it could get. It's a little bit of a exaggeration, but honestly, it's not that far to even that's not that dystopian to even think about or entertain. So
That's what it is. So,
yeah, kind of wanted just to leave you all with that. Just really see where that lesson leaves y'all. I think there was
perception versus perspective.
a lot of stuff in there that I'm gonna want to go in and break down, and there's a lot more layers to everything that we did talk about. Obviously, again, we just wanted to get it in a lesson that we can use for the future to go deeper in on. But we thought this would be a good one lesson fits all type of thing where you can all digest it. So even if this was your first time listening, where hopefully you found us and I should probably do the first 5 lessons before I listen to the 6th one, but hey.
Just like in school, you jump forward 6 chapters. You're like, oh, fuck, that's interesting. I got to go back and hear something different.
Yeah. Well, some people already got their belief systems all intact, so they don't approach other things logically and procedurally. But
Yeah,
hey,
the whole
that's
language
whole
thing.
other
It's a false
conversation.
thing you need to know. Ready to roll. It's like it's a great America, y'all.
Yep.
It really is. My
Thanks for
God.
joining us on this happy 420
Yeah,
day.
420.
Glad that the universe could bring in some synchronicity with the building of the fences outdoors, starting us around time at just after
They're building
420.
the wall up there, one house at a time.
We were nice and medicated on some good quality cannabis.
The green of the
Partaking
sky.
because we can. We understand that it doesn't make us the most clear-minded to present a lesson, but hey, you gotta fit the spirit of the moment and for what the job calls for,
Sure does.
and that was it. So
Arigato gozaimashite.
until next time, y'all, we will see ya
Domo.
later.